Hey. How y'all doing? Let's see if the stream has gone live. Perfect. Okay, we are good to go. Now, let's bring up stream for the town. Okay. Now, let's tab. So, how do I turn the audio on?
Items pertaining to a scheduled public hearing or appeal will also not be permitted for discussion during public commentary and will be referred to the scheduling hearing or appeal.
We are in action.
Keep comments to facts or seeking information and avoid hearsay. We will not accept any abusive.
So they're giving out the rules for the public commentary right now.
If not respected in chambers, you will be asked to leave immediately.
They must be concerned.
Thank you for approaching the microphone. Please state your full name and address. You will be addressing myself, please. We are basing this all on information only. You will not have any answer back from me. This is strictly your information. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Very strict on the rules.
My name is Brooke. I live at 4704 54th Ave, Vermilion. Okay, in this community, I'm a small business owner, a homeowner, and I try to volunteer and help out within the community as much as possible. I grew up in Vermilion and then returned when my daughter became school age because I knew this would be the community I'd like to raise my child in.
Good for you.
I volunteered on the skating board for almost 4 years. I started helping with the fundraising, then became vice president. This year I was elected president of Vermilion.
So she's the president of the Vermilion Skating.
Skating club. Now, with your new decision on enforcing the rep program in our public stadium, I can no longer walk into the building and tie my child's skates. I can no longer watch my daughter practice. I can no longer run a board without being allowed into the building.
Wow.
Your decision has affected parents, coaches, volunteers, and numerous families within the community. If our child falls and hurts themselves, we're not allowed to be there to help them. This is a major concern for our child's safety. We were always under 1/3 capacity. We never had a concession. We followed all of the rules. The vending machine was even unplugged. I could not go and purchase a bottle of water, yet our communal drinking fountain. I'm tired. I'm tired of this affecting my business. If I wasn't shut down because of new government decisions, I was limited by ridiculous rules and guidelines to follow. Now I have complete strangers calling my businesses and demanding to know facilities, and again I am being asked my personal health information. I'm no lawyer, however, from what I understand of the law, the town has no right to ask me my private health information when I enter a public facility. I started a petition last week to implore the council to take this time and please make the right decision for this community. In a few days, we have managed almost 300 signatures of people who support our decision. It doesn't matter
300 in a town of 4,100 people.
We know that these rules are wrong. Please consider eliminating the rep program whenever the facility is under the 1/3 capacity.
That's a decent compromise.
I have another letter.
I wonder if they'll go for that.
That is your 2 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Take your time and come taken by us. Thank you.
Can someone else come in and read
Yes.
the other? Oh.
Yes, we can have.
Oh, so they got more people. 2 minutes a pop, but if you can get multiple people on there, you can extend what you have to say.
Hi there.
Excuse me.
Nice to
Please.
see you all.
Please state your name and your address, please.
I'm Nicole.
Add
I live at
decoration.
5710 Park Drive.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, well, I'm going to continue where
Go
she
ahead,
left off.
please. Go ahead. Thank you.
Prior to taking registration
strategy.
and making a decision on whether or not to run our pond hockey program for the 21-22 season, I specifically asked Kevin Lucas on September 24th via email.
Town
will
manager's
the town
getting
be
called out.
Participating in the restrictions exemption program. Mr. Lucas replied to me via email on September 28th as follows. Should teams want to go beyond the third vaccine passport for everyone that enters? I didn't think this would be an issue for pond hockey. Should pond hockey reach beyond the 1/3 capacity, then yes, the team will need to provide personal SIC information for vaccination verification at the entrance. As you know, we've been running our program since October. We made the decision based on the assurance from Kevin Lucas that we would not have to operate under REP because we would instead be allowed to operate under the alternate guidelines. We were advised by Don Plaxton on November 24th that we would have to follow the REP guidelines to continue, or why were we advised by Don Plaxton on the 24th that we'd have to follow REP guidelines to continue our season. I expect that this decision was made in error and that it will be reversed so that we can go back to the alternate 1/3 capacity guideline. I understand my conversation with Greg Ward today that another user group, not Vermilion Pond Hockey Association, has been in violation of the HS guidelines.
Ward is the health inspector.
Those in violation are not associated with nor governed by Vermilion Pond Hockey Association. Therefore, there's no reason for sure. Okay.
Oh, they cut her,
there's no reason
they're
for
gonna cut her off.
VHA to now be asked to operate under the REP. This is a clear violation of the agreement made by Kevin Lucas with Vermilion Pond Hockey. Thank you.
Breaking their own agreements.
Nice to see you all. Thanks for all you guys for submitting your names for.
Oh, we're buffering out. I'm gonna have to upgrade that. We're gonna keep doing streams.
Appreciate you guys are giving your time and services.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at the public commentary?
Anyone else? Batter up.
Pick a number, any number. How are you today?
Good. How are you, folks?
Very good, thank
for
you.
listening to me.
Please state
my
your
name-
name and your address, please.
Aaron Snellgrove, 5710 Perry Drive. I appreciate all your efforts you guys do here. Real concern for our community here is building out there. I feel that tyranny works its way down until the bottom works their way back up. We're going to live like this. I just think that we need to step back and think about how things really need to be. I don't think we need to be at each other's throats at any time. I think if everyone can just be listened to a little bit. For second thought in this world is it's hard to find. I think there's a lot of angry people out there. I truly do. So if you guys could find it in your time to, I know everyone's busy, to explore and understand what everyone's up to up there. That's all I got. I just appreciate your time.
That
Good luck, guys.
is there anybody else that would like to speak during the public commentary section?
Why don't you guys all get together and start working trying to bring the community together? Because it's really.
That's not part of the public commentary. Thank you. Thank you. Have a wonderful night. I will now
That's rather
close
dismissive.
public commentary. Moving on.
Seems rather agitated at that.
4.2, 2022 funding for REP program, ICE surcharge. Mr. Leibel, would you like to speak to this, please? Is that yours, Mr. Lucas? Sorry, Mr. Lucas?
Oh, the audio just got better. I wonder if that was just my headphones or,
Thank you, Mayor Johnson.
or they finally fixed something.
So as we're all aware, the province has put in an REP program that the town of Vermilion is required to follow if we were wanting to have events at the stadium, arena, and curling rink. The unfortunate part is we have to follow the rules that are put forward by the province.
So he's blaming the province.
So, the province did offer a $2,000 grant towards assistance for finding or for providing people for to check vaccinations. The town has applied for that. We don't see any problem in obtaining that grant. I've listed several options that we could go about for funding. However, I feel the combination of the grant funding and pulling dollars from the current 2021-2022 budget allocation, it won't adjust the budget any, and we do have some room as we have some positions in that department that have not been filled. So my recommendation, or I guess my hope is that council sees their way to support this recommendation with number 5 as the grant funding.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Are you?
Good, good. So they just finished with the people from the public that were speaking against the REP program, and now they're actually discussing where they're going to get the funding for the REP program from. And
Yeah, I
Kevin
was
pretty much
trying to-
threw the province under the bus.
Yeah.
How do you want to do that, Mr. Lucas?
Your
Yeah, I
staff
started
recommendation
actually like
with,
trying to watch
giving
it from the
REP
beginning to hear the
program
public
with,
commentary, but I guess
options for
it
consideration.
was ahead. I totally forgot. I was actually talking with I was talking with what's his name?
Personnel?
Wheat about it today.
With who, sorry?
Wheat Waiwarika.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he mentioned something about people going
Comments or
shop.
questions about this,
So-
please? Councillor Pulick?
Yeah, they had 3 people. It was Brooke, another woman, maybe Lindsay, I forget her name, and then Aaron Snellgrove spoke.
I'm just really wondering.
And they were all against applying the REBA.
Yeah, they weren't into it at all. Brooke actually offered the compromise of saying that if you've got more people than a third capacity, then you could do the REP. But for anything where you're not expecting to reach those numbers, then don't worry about it.
Quick check.
Yeah, I think it's all about
For
the
example, when the Good
concessions
Life,
anyways.
put on their events recently.
Yeah. Here, let's
they
see what
had,
Rob's talking about
people
here.
there at the
They're
door,
discussing it right now.
Reading the QR codes, and if you didn't have a QR code, then you needed to have proof that you had the appropriate tests completed. So to me, it's one, the decision's already been made by administration, so I really don't see the need for this motion. So basically, yeah, decision's been made. So
Mr. Lucas, do you want to answer to that for a minute, please?
So I missed why he's saying it's redundant. I
Thank
guess because it's
you,
already
Mr. Mayor,
in
through
progress.
Councillor Pulick. The reason this item has been brought to council is because it does involve funding, and we need to ensure that our funding is allotted correctly. The other response to your question of why we're not using volunteers is the enforcement around the REP program. Operators will be audited for compliance by Alberta Health Services. Alberta Gaming, Liquor, and Cannabis and law enforcement agencies in Alberta are able to enforce this program. If operators are not complying with these requirements or the current public health restrictions, then enforcement and prosecution may result in fines up to $100,000 for a first offense. That's on page 8 of the document that's been provided to you. So in respect to Councillor Pule, we brought this to council to hire staff to keep our risk mitigated. So we are not going against the province in their direction.
Yeah, is that better? I'm just playing around. I've experimented a little bit on here, but I haven't
Further
done
questions
this.
or comments?
Yeah, I never tried this either.
So I guess I have a few questions on the whole premise of the paying for someone to audit the rep program. In the document we're provided, it clearly states if the rep program is implemented in the facility, and if it was not, we wouldn't be funding this program at all. There'd be no question of funding. So I
That's
guess where
accurate.
the question lays is why are we even worried about funding? Why are we implementing it?
Well, and it's interesting that Lucas tries to play it on procedure, and it's like the reason that we're talking about this is because there's funding on the line. But he already made this call. So if he didn't have funding
REP
approved,
program
why
was
is he
put
making this
into
call to move
place,
forward with this?
That's interesting. I actually went
essentially because
to
we had
talk
user
to
groups
Kirby
that
about it.
were going to
and
have
he
to
said
fold
he really was a
if we didn't have it
disappointment.
in place. We have a concession operator that we were trying to support.
He didn't want to actually answer a lot of my
again,
questions. He said like he doesn't want to get in
Without
trouble.
having the
And he talked
concession,
to
we would
the
we
mayor.
would lose
This week,
of the stadium.
But like he should have gotten in trouble for just going ahead and doing this without council's approval, because according to rumors around town, is the mayor and council didn't give him the blessing to do this. He just went
Alberta Health
and
Services
implemented this
telling us that
program
we either
and then
run the
told them
REP
about it
program
after.
Or we close the entire facility. That is
interesting. I hear the otherwise. I hear yes, he did. He was responsible for it, but they all were actually like standing by.
Due to the timelines, this happened.
Oh, so council did decide to do this? They just like approved through email or something, or what?
Yeah, I don't know. I tried to ask Kirby that, and he said, "Well, I don't want to get in trouble." I said, "What do you mean?" Like I said, is there were a vote about it? He's like, ask the mayor. Ask the mayor. That's what he's saying. Which for me is like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. How can you not just answer if you voted on it or not? That implies that they didn't.
Tell them that is what the reason.
Yeah, that's probably what happened. And the mayor say, "Oh, we're
100% the
I
reason.
don't know." I tried to actually
no
even call
ice,
the mayor.
Windows program,
I have his
which is
phone number.
officially part
And
of
he
our
didn't reply. I called him twice. So I was like, "Yeah, whatever. I don't know what I'm gonna do next."
If I may add
Yeah.
to it.
Well,
I
it sounds like
really
council's not on
don't
board.
Sitting here right now, they have nothing but prospered and have positive comments to it, the junior bees. I've spoken to them personally. Without the
So they
RDP,
think
they would not
it's
probably
fair,
be playing
it's
hockey
still
and
football,
be
they
in
were
a very
thinking.
positive situation. Minor hockey 2 weeks ago put on a tournament. They made $9,000 at the door fundraising. They don't have REP in place. They make 1,000. They're turning people away at the door from Red Deer, St. Albert, and people are looking at our town like, what do you got going on? We were organized. We were ready. We were on one of the best tournaments in this province. We are well known for it. It had to be put in place. It's either shut down and send all the kids home and not play hockey. These people are here trying to their rights. The rights aren't theirs. It's the rights of the kids to play hockey. That's my view. Whether it's right or wrong, that's my view. It has been nothing but positive.
Who's saying that?
That's the mayor speaking.
That's his view.
So,
Yeah.
Kevin, thanks very much.
That the
for
kids have a right
that
to play hockey.
response and that information that definitely,
Hmm.
puts a different light on things. I think that the town needs some guarantee that the art rep program is going to be followed. And we have some control over that. Whereas if it's with volunteers that may or may not follow that, it still puts the town at risk. So, having heard that information, I'm definitely in favor of this motion. I think that's a wise decision to move forward with. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions, please? Then I will ask the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Looked like that was unanimous.
Thank you for your comments.
They had the camera on a bad angle for that.
Moving on,
So
4.3.
for
Auditor
keeping the
appointment.
REP?
Where
Mr.
for
Libo,
going ahead and
sir, you can
funding
speak to this, please.
the REP audit and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Because I guess there's funding from the province
Thank you, Mr.
for
Mayor.
administering
So
the
every year we have
REP, but I
to,
guess they needed
appoint our
to
auditors.
hire an
And
auditor.
So this year we're going with the same auditors we had last year.
So
Donnell
they're
Eisman
still
Corp.
gonna go
It's
on
a
with it.
formality, but it is required by the MGA to audit our statements and to appoint the auditor through council. If there are any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll put forward that recommendation for your approval.
I make a motion that the council for the town of Vermilion appoint Donald L. Eisman Professional Corporation as the external financial auditor for the 2021 fiscal year.
Any comments?
Yeah,
Questions?
it's been Dawn for forever.
Then I will ask the question. All in favor?
Be surprised if anyone rocked any boats on this one.
Thank you. Carried.
It is very interesting.
4.4.
Really done.
2022 budget recommendation, staff recommendation. I'm guessing Mr. Libo, you will speak to this.
Oh,
again?
so this is their operating and capital budget. They met for finance last week, so I haven't seen any of these documents. I'll probably check the minutes after it comes out, but I wonder what they've come up with.
So we are bringing forward the 2022 budget for presentation. This is the capital budget as well as the operating budget. We did make two minor changes from our finance and admin discussion. One of them was consolidation of the library requisition. We had separated out the Northern Lights Library System fee from the requisition from the library.
Oh, that seems odd.
It's confusing for everyone, confusing for me and as well as other people. So we just combined it in one line to make it a little bit more straightforward for people. One of the other small changes was just a $2,800 change in the land development revenues. I'm not sure what the difference there was, but it wasn't that material, but we made that change. So we'll bring you in the loop on that. So we're just preparing the slides now for the presentation, and we'll probably go through the capital budget first, if that's okay with you.
They should start at the end. Tell us what the tax levy is going to be. The thing that people don't realize from the outside looking in on this is council really doesn't build this budget. Like, it's really administration that comes up with a lot of this, and then they'll kind of sort of present it to council and they can give some like tweaks and changes and stuff, but really it's tweaks and changes based on a budget built by administration. Council's a lot more hands off than folks would assume.
Yeah, I see also on YouTube you can't even like leave comments, I guess.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Yeah. Oh, on YouTube, can you leave comments on YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh, it's saying
maybe not on their stream, but on ours you can. I can go back and check theirs. Is there comments on?
Yeah, there you can't.
Minimize. Chat is disabled for the live stream, so no, you can't leave comments.
That's interesting too.
It is, because you used to be able to leave comments.
Yeah, I know.
Why is the screen black?
Andrea tried to share something and then it went black, I guess.
They're just having technical difficulties.
So this is the starting with the capital budget.
So what do you think of that whole situation?
We want to start with highlighting the funding.
Here, do you want me to turn that volume down?
Related to the budget.
It's a tough time to hear you and.
Look at, not just
it's okay. If you want to watch, I can just wait a minute and we can talk about it more, of course.
Starting off with a debenture.
No, it's.
We do have.
No, I wanted to actually talk to you and see what's your take on that situation with REP.
Oh, personally, I'm not a fan. And especially if their concerns around it are just financially driven from the concession, I don't know if that's really the strongest of reasoning.
Our line of credit is currently at
2.5
million.
Yeah, I kind of think the same way, but it's not just like the financial aspect. I don't know if it's actually more profitable that way anyway.
Yeah. Well, and especially if you look at the social cost to it, right? Like the people testifying, during the public commentary against it, were saying that they wouldn't even be allowed in the facility to like tie their kids' skates or to be there if they had an
Yes,
accident or anything.
yes, and I hear that comment multiple times in town.
Like it's just another way that the different layers of government are twisting people's arms to get the shot. And, regardless of what your thoughts are on the vaccine, I think it's inappropriate to be manipulating people like this or coercing people like this. Like now they're using your kids against you. That's gross.
It is, and I just don't understand because most of the counselor, when they are in their videos, they were talking about there would be no more mandates or regulation when it comes to COVID. Even the mayor himself told me that personally on a phone call.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then one of the very first things that they do is proceed with the REP, one of the strongest of these COVID measures. And the whole argument's been that, places that are essential, you shouldn't be able to implement the REP, and that you should just go with the lowered capacity. So even if the province is making it where, okay, well, you have this option of either going with reduced capacity or REP, well, do you believe that the stadium and access to kids' sports is essential, or do you not? And if you do, then you should take an approach like the library has, where you don't ask people for vaccination status when you enter. You just keep the capacity lower. Like, and from what it was saying from the people that were speaking during public commentary, they're quite often like significantly below the 1/3 capacity for that stadium. Like that's a huge facility.
Well, I don't know because I don't really like go to. But for me, it's more like of a you should not be able or force people, like you said, coerce them to get the vaccine. So I don't know about how big the stadium. Actually, I never been there, which it's funny, but I don't know much about. Maybe I've been there once, but I don't know much about hockey. But for me, it's more about this should not have been a decision that was done that way, and it should not be a decision like you said. If it's essential, you should stick with the 1/3 capacity. It's like grocery stores. Is that going to be next? Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Right? Like, because what happens is every month or two, the goalpost shifts and changes. Like, whatever happened to you get your vaccine and you don't have to wear a mask anymore?
That's also an interesting thing because you know how much it's 85% in Alberta. It's probably one of the highest in the world.
A lot of our software,
it's
85 vaccinated. So even if you hit 100, are they all gonna actually take? No, because it's gonna be the posters and So I'm really disappointed in that council. Actually, I'm not gonna.
Yeah. Well, I'm disappointed too. Like, the municipal government is the closest government to the people. And so if anyone's going to some extent stand up for them or to represent their interests, you would think that it would be your local council, right? Because now it's all three layers of the government laying the pressure on people, and I don't know, they should stay out of it. If anything, I think that would be their best course, if not actively, putting their foot down a little bit.
The best they can do is we're not going to do anything positive or negative, and that was the premise that they set in their videos. Now you say they are unanimous on that? Not even one signal?
Well, the camera was set up in such a way where we couldn't see, but it looked like it from the view that we could see. You could see Kevin for sure and the mayor. And whoever was on the right of the mayor, I think that or the left of the mayor, I think that they put their hand up as well. So, it's unfortunate.
I can probably provide some very.
It did sound like Josh wasn't into it from what he was saying. I didn't catch all of what he was saying, but
Well, I talked
Yeah.
to him before, and he was also like not for it, but not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I didn't talk to him recently. I said like a while ago.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's tough because I don't know how much we should really get into this right now, but like so many of the things that we were told and like, led to believe haven't actually panned out, or as more evidence has come out, have wound up not being true. And so now we're in this situation where so many people have been propagandized for nearly 2 years now so heavily that they just have trouble like breaking out of that. Like concepts like the hospitalization rate for COVID being 0.89%, the idea that children are significantly lower and have a higher likelihood of severe illness from the flu than they do from COVID, type of thing. Like the average person doesn't know that. They just keep hearing, oh no, Omicron on the news.
Yes, that's true. It is very true.
Yeah, so it's like, and like these people keep being told that if you just continue to vaccinate everybody, that we'll be able to vaccinate our way out of COVID. But even the health professionals at like the CDC and the World Health Organization, yeah, even they have been admitting that, they were always going to have to deal with this. And it's just, how do you best deal with it in a way that both protects people and allows them to continue living their lives? Finding that balance.
Yeah, I just don't know, because for me, I find it really weird that it was like, it seems like it was unanimous. I hope it's not.
Yeah, well, it sounds like there are some people right up there in the crowd. So we'll have to send some message out and follow up with people and see what they say. Get an idea of what the vote count was and just get some general feedback from the room. Here, I'll actually message.
Consultation with council, of course, and we want to position to fund future capital, which is why we discuss reserve transfers. And it's also one of the reasons I should point out too. In the
I'm not really. I don't know. Like, I just find it weird that municipalities, especially in an area like that, where like would actually like take that route.
Trying to stick only to the
I'm sorry, what's that?
Like on a municipal level here, I just thought this would not be possible in general, that they would actually like shut a facility or whatever, or a town office and say that. It just didn't seem like it, because, but I don't know. It's just,
well, man, we got to the point where the Lloyd council passed a motion saying that they all got to present proof of vaccination and stuff, even though they go to their meetings.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was like a month or two ago.
And was that also their facilities there, same thing?
I'm not sure what their rules are for their facilities, but I think that they probably are checking for people's papers. I went there a couple weeks ago, and they made me like present, or they were asking for papers just to go into the Walmart. Like they had it all, they had it all barriered off. Like it was like the airport, man. Like how the airport has all like the segmented off portions, and you got to go through the little scanner and stuff. Yeah, and they had the little person at the table checking everyone's paper. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
But I was in Walmart like this weekend, like that past weekend, and it was fine. I just went there.
You were in the Lloyd Walmart?
Yeah.
Oh, well, this was the same Walmart that I was at, and they didn't have the barriers and stuff up anymore.
Because
it was right as soon as you come in. Right as soon as you come in there, you had like the little steel guiding like waist level railings up, and yeah, you had to go through the little screener guy to actually get into the store.
They can keep that up or something, maybe. But I honestly, like, I was there like this past weekend, and the sex was normal. I didn't.
Oh, excellent. Well, they must have taken it down, because that was last month. I think that was the 6th of last month, whatever day I went and I adopted a dog recently,
Oh,
and so it
yeah,
was
you
when I
told me.
was there to do that. I stopped in
But
at
essentially,
Walmart
right where we
to
left off in 2019
get
is
some
the point.
supplies, and that's what they had going on.
And
But
again,
yeah, if they've
just to
gotten
break it down
past that, that's good.
a second time, just to make sure everyone's clear, this is just the municipal
Hmm.
portion of the tax bill. We do take
Yeah,
into
it's
account
it is ridiculous actually. Like, and
things.
but then you have
Yeah,
like
do
states
that.
like in the states
But
like Florida
thank
and
you for what you said. So a lot of
Texas,
requisition,
where you don't have
requisition,
anything,
and library requisitions. So
and the cases are not rising up like other states.
again, just to
It's
get a
just I
better
find
feel
it
for
very
our community.
mismanaged to this point by most of provinces and states. COVID have been mismanaged.
Yeah, well, it's crazy. Like you look at places like Florida, and they have pretty minimal restrictions, and their COVID numbers are significantly lower, even per capita, than states with really severe restrictions like New York. So it's, I don't know.
From Statistics Canada. And so you can see where we're at in
Yeah,
2019.
I don't know where this is going. Do you think it's actually like maybe next year, the year after, or sometime in the future that they actually like will like stop with this like show you a paper kind of thing, or is this like here to stay?
Do I think that the asking for papers is a temporary or a long-term situation? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Yes.
I hope it's just a temporary thing, but what makes me think that it may be long-term is that they have gone from just the regular version of the vaccine passports to investing all that money into the QR program and having the digital passports. And to me, you don't go and invest a whole bunch of money in something that you plan on scrapping in a handful of months.
Our total surplus is 10,371.
Yes, that's true, but
it's less than
um,
0.058% of our budget.
it is true, but again, like it's just like if people started rioting, it doesn't matter about that money. Like if a lot of people started to, especially when they start forcing like kids or something, 5 to 11. Do you think how many people will comply with that 5 to 11 to go to school?
Well, I think probably a fair amount of them. Like, yeah, at this stage, based on the info that I've seen and all that, I think that you would still have the majority of them that would be supportive of that. What's that?
Like the majority will vaccinate their kid and agree for them to need proof for go to school and stuff like that.
Yeah, like if we're looking at the whole province, yeah, I would say so.
Help us to afford a change in our FTE.
Yeah, because you got places like my girlfriend's in like some moms groups and stuff on Facebook, and like where it's a bunch of city and suburban women in their late 20s 30s type of deal, and they were very hardcore excited for when the approval was opened up and they were allowed to get their kids done. And it just seems like a lot of folks are really eager for this. Like, and
I just find it weird though, because like at least you would research when it comes to your kid more than at least for yourself. So why would you want a vaccine for your kid when it's actually like there is minimum to none?
Yeah, well,
like I'm not vaccinating my kid. There's no way.
And I think that another stake against it, or needle in the coffin against that going forward with the children, or with a really heavy push for the children, or some kind of mandate there, is that they're still doing the same version of the vaccine that we know now is like 60-something% effective at best, kind of thing, against the variants that we're dealing with now, and who knows about Omicron, right? So like it's a pretty leaky vaccine as we're seeing, so I think it might be a tough proposition to force that upon people's kids. They might put up a little bit of a stink about that.
Expecting some
Oh,
requests for the
we
recreation
have
for 2023.
Mercedes in the house.
So I guess
Hey,
the
how you doing?
question I would have, maybe not so much for Brian, but
Good.
maybe
Am I
for
up now?
members.
Yeah, you're up.
We have
We
two
got Amber
members,
here, and
on
we're
that board.
watching
Hi.
the
Are they aware
we're
of
watching
any
the town budget summary.
new
We've been talking
requisitions coming
about
forth for
actually the
2023
jab mandates
and
and
what
for
that,
kids actually,
if
and
there's going to be any
if that's going to be the
changes
straw
there?
that breaks the camel's back. I
I
was
sure hope so.
yeah. What do you think? Do you think that that'll be the point too far
First
if
of
they
all,
start
that's
saying that your kid has to be jabbed in order to go to school?
Well,
We
it's
are
already
looking at the formula right now.
Yeah.
And we
Sorry,
are
sorry, your
looking to
audio is
see
a bit
if
low.
it's feasible,
Yeah.
Oh,
if it
sorry.
fits the models that
My
we
children
have.
will not be jabbed, period.
Um,
And
as
to
of
Yeah.
force
right now,
that will make me a
models haven't
homeschooling.
changed. So
Yeah, me too.
that it is
Yeah.
gonna
But
be
I
like,
staying the
actually have,
same.
like I have a kid
We
like
are
7 years old.
discussing.
Hi, I don't know if we never
The
met. I
direct answer is we don't have the full answer right yet.
No,
It
we
is
haven't
something
met,
that
but
we've been
no, I have a
discussing.
6-year-old and he's now legally allowed to have this brand
Yeah,
new
just a comment on
smaller
that. I guess,
version of a vaccine.
maybe
Yeah.
I'll
look at
decide that.
the previous formula.
Yeah,
Another
mine is
couple
also like
years.
turning 7 next
We're
month,
not going to be
so same
subjected
age,
to
and I still not
anything
gonna get
different.
him vaccinated either.
The formula is going to change.
I
So
don't
it's not
agree
in
to the
our
idea,
favor. I
so
certainly
No,
would hope
I
I
have
Hey,
faith.
understand.
that's brought back to council. So
well,
that
well,
we can
talking to
have
other
a
parents,
debate on
are
it.
they in a similar mind frame to you guys, or do you think that they might be a little bit more willing to go along with
Our
things?
intent is always to make sure that there's a fairness and that our
I don't
Like
know. I'm
provided for
mixed.
first. So that's our intent.
like the ones I kind of talk to, most of them are against it, but I also like hang out in circles that kind of like think
Thanks for
the same way I
questions,
think, so I can't
Sure.
really like
So we'll move
use it as
to
a
decision.
sample,
Citizen-
because most of the
Yeah.
people I hang out with here in town or around usually have the same idea as I do or similar ideas, so
You can see
it's really hard
Yeah.
to gauge that.
there's a
Yeah,
change
for
Yeah,
sure.
that's why I try to go in
in
different groups
plus
on
of
Facebook and such,
approximately
and you
50,000,
definitely see
Yeah.
some people have already had their kids
there
booked
are
the moment
projected to be some
started,
additional costs in this
and
policy
are
for
taking
some
pictures and
residents,
proud of the
and,
fact that their children are
our,
getting
our
the
experts in the
shot, which I
field
mean,
and
all for it. You
authorities
can
that
go
we
and make those
reached out to
decisions for
indicated
yourself.
that the effect
But
it's
then
likely that
it's
our costs
when
will
they're
remain
actually
constant
putting
in
people
schools
down
that
for
are
saying,
smaller
I'm not
municipalities,
sure or I'm not doing
and
what I
in
have to do.
an agreement for several years for
You do
additional
you.
contracts.
You're
So
the
if,
parent. You have full authority over your
increase their
children.
costs by, or
Make those
projected to increase
decisions.
their costs
Go
by
for it.
50,000 in
Don't
my
push it on us. Don't make it a mandatory.
a number of years down the road.
Yeah, and
by
that is the problem. Yeah,
2026,
it's making it mandatory for everybody else,
higher increases.
and it's
So
the same for adults, not just kids.
Oh yeah.
But we've been
Like I'm trying
but
to
we've been
plan.
doing it.
Vermilion
Sorry, go
Regional
on.
Center, there's a
Well, I've been trying to plan out
favorable
like
decrease in
extracurricular
expenses,
activities for myself, for my kids,
corresponding with
and I
almost
can't
$60,000
without
decrease in revenue.
worry about paying for the
Projected
test or
activity restrictions,
seeing if they'll be
and
allowed to or
priorities,
not.
there's no significant change.
Well,
Again,
that's
moving
just what I was
into
gonna
the
say.
numbers,
Is
this one
so
we
they've been
again had
forcing
trouble
this
getting it
stuff
all on the
on
screen.
everyone, and
Here's
even
the
when
actuals in for
they're
2022.
not,
This is the right-hand
they
side of that
give you a quote unquote choice. It involves testing, which if you do go and get the testing, it can be quite expensive. Like around here, I believe it's $40 plus tax to
I
go and
think
get a
it's
test, and that gets you 3 days. So that's
I think it's
$14 a
25
day.
now.
What's
It's
that, man?
25 now. It's 25 because I know somebody who got it recently with
Brian,
the
if you want to go
Eastern
back to
Institute. You can
revenue
get it for
on
25, but
page,
still a lot for
Oh,
3
because
days.
so community
that's the
bloom.
price I was quoting was from
So I
there. So
don't,
they
that
dropped their
committee
price to
doesn't
25.
exist
Well, that's good.
anymore. So I'm just
I think now
wondering if
it's 25 because somebody got it recently,
what's the
and
Okay.
they
logic
told me,
in
and I
that
was like,
category.
still a
I'm
lot,
assuming that the
Yeah.
money
Well, still you're
but I
looking at
also
nearly
like,
$10 a
slot
day,
is allocated
right?
for
Like
things like
so
plow,
that's
digging,
over $3,000, like
for the summertime,
$3,500 a
whether
year
that
that you'd have to
should be
drop on
actually just
testing.
allocated to parks and recs.
yeah,
versus
but I
paying
also
them.
like, I looked at the result and let's be honest, it doesn't look like it's really hard to read. Like it's just like a piece of paper. So I'm surprised not a lot of people are going to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, the people are gonna, do fraud and forgery or whatever. But I think that's similar to the speed limit, right? We come at this with the assumption that people are going to be law abiding and follow the rules.
Yeah. No, but I think that with the vaccine, I think it's going to be more prevalent because, well, I know people that are already like, you probably like reproduce and stuff like that. So it is very interesting to watch something like that. Like
Well,
for
and
me,
now,
like,
go on.
Sure.
yeah, like
really
I
gonna
I
say,
know some people who did actually, but
just about
like I'm not judging. I really don't care
money was
because I don't think it's okay
allocated
to ask
towards
people for their
communities in bloom, which
vaccination
in
status.
turn went towards the flowers and
Yeah.
beautification of the community.
Yeah,
That
they
was the
it
description.
would be pretty easy to forge, and that's the government's whole argument for going with the QR thing. But it's my understanding the QR thing is just so that they can't create fake vaccine passports or records, but you could still continually make fake testing documents, couldn't you? That's not part of the QR program.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. The testing document is basically a piece of paper. If you can just like replicate, like I am capable of replicating it. Like I'm a graphic designer, so for me, I can actually rebuild it.
Yeah, no, it'd be pretty easy for someone with even just the
I
most
think it'd be
basic
pretty
of
easy
skill
for
set.
anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, like because another thing that plays in your like what makes it easy also. Another thing is like when you show it to the people at the door, most of them don't care. They don't even check twice. Like
Yeah, that's true.
when you go to a restaurant like McDonald's, the kid at McDonald's doesn't care.
Well,
If it
most
costs a meal
places
or
don't care. They're just they're doing what they're told because the
Yeah.
fines that they'll give on these businesses if they don't comport is ridiculous.
Well, and
Yeah.
also for those vaccine passports or the negative testing, if you're over age, you shouldn't be having someone that's in minor checking your ID and everything. That like the whole point of being able to go and check if you're over age as a selling cigarettes or selling alcohol is that you are of legal age to be able to do that authorization. And we have 16-year-olds at McDonald's or 17-year-olds at McDonald's making sure that your legal documentation is correct. That isn't right either.
Yeah, and what's even funny that they are not themselves vaccinated. Like I know a person who work at social, and she told me that she's not vaccinated, and she said I have to check the QR codes at the door, and she's not vaccinated at all, and she doesn't need to. This is something I mentioned also about this job for the vaccine checker for the town, when I said they probably gonna hire somebody that there's no requirement for the vaccination there.
Yeah, well, it was there was that rant and rave where that gentleman got asked for his papers at Boston Pizza, and then he wound up. Oh, let Mercedes back in, and then he wound up. Sorry, Mercedes. We were just saying that the gentleman on a rant and rave tried going in the Boston Pizza, and he got asked for his papers, and then he refused. And asked for their papers or their being the server or the hostess or whatever at the front door. And so he put a big thing on, and he wound up getting a whole bunch of blowback because people were just like, hey, she's just doing her job. It's wrong of you to bully them or whatever. But but how he went about it is clearly wrong. But it is striking it at a point, what the same point that you were just making, Amber, that we've got people requesting papers and testing and stuff for you to be able to go in somewhere, but I don't know if these people have been vaccinated or have been tested, the ones doing the screening itself. So it's a bit of a hypocrisy.
Hey, Justin, we've talked about this with even in hospitality. If a person has had their HIV testing regularly or Hep C or Hep B testing, I have a feeling like people that are serving and making food or serving you drinks, you have a far higher chance of having that transmitted, and that having severe long-term issues with someone than COVID at this point, because you have those symptoms versus HIV. You don't have those symptoms for a long time. If you're taking testing regularly, it can be up to 6 months before you get a positive.
That is a very good point. Like, what would you rather get incidentally from going to a restaurant? Coronavirus or an STI?
Definitely, I take COVID, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt I
think
take
it's
COVID.
a no-brainer, right? Most people, it's a no-brainer that
So
it
if we
would
can
be
go back
COVID,
to the
right?
revenue side, Brian, and just for information, so
Yeah,
the,
it is very interesting, but I still think like
air transport
it also might
revenue,
create something which I see actually happening, like
6,575,
a parallel community.
and that's not revenue
Like
generated
Mercedes, you said you're looking for
Brian. That was
extracurricular
was that the
activities, and I
revenue
think that
from
there's a lot
reserve
of
money
people who
going
have been
in
doing that,
to
and then they will
offset
start to
the feathering,
plan
and
activities
then
without
the
an
balance of that
RED
on
or
the
something like that,
expenditure side was
whether
Yeah.
it's like, you know,
the cost
in
associated
places
with
like that. Like I already actually had somebody tell me if the school tried to force vaccine for order to school, not just homeschooling, they actually know people that they'll be willing to take kids like a kind of a daycare to school with them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the
So
government's already making it mandatory for people that in the government that are working from home, they have to be vaccinated. Why? I can kind of see how they can play out the conversation that if you are in the working environment in the office, sure, you can have that argument. But when you are working at home and there is no other conversation or there's no interaction with other people outside of a Zoom meeting, there should be no reason you have authority over what's being put in your body. Not that you should ever have authority.
Utilities has changed recently.
No, but like with anything, like there are extreme circumstances where things can become justifiable, right? And that's what you're hinting at there with the requiring papers for the people that are working from home, is that even if we're accepting at face value that whatever risk from commingling with people at the workplace exists from COVID and it's justifiable, it's certainly got to be less justifiable to make that same request of people working from home. Like who are you exposed to? Your dog? Like, sure, yeah, apparently you can get COVID from your dog, but you were going to get COVID from your dog anyways. It has nothing to do with you working remotely.
Well, and it's the liability of the workplace. So the workplace is saying it's dangerous for you to not be vaccinated to us. But if you're not coming in, then you're only liable or possibly dangerous to the people in your surroundings, which is about the regulations in the community and you choosing to, if you're sick, stay home. If you've got the sniffles, wear your mask, or all those other options available. Wash your hands. Like those things should be first, but they're still not connected to the government or your job. That's not connected there.
True, and that's the thing. If the thing about the liability, they wouldn't actually require the vaccination. They would require testing every day, because you can still get COVID and die even if you're vaccinated, and you can get it from a vaccinated person. Actually, like a month ago or two, I don't remember how long now, we had a driver in The Voice. He was fully vaccinated. He was old, like he was an old gentleman, like 98. And he was fully vaccinated. He went on a trip to see his family, never came back. He got COVID, died in an ICU. And he was fully vaccinated. So if he got that at work, is that our liability at the newspaper? I don't think so.
Yeah, well,
Well,
would it have been your liability if there was any other communicable disease, right? Or not yours, but your employers.
Yeah. Like, and that's the thing. Like, if it was about actually liability, then they should actually make sure that the people entering the work doesn't have COVID. But and a vaccine doesn't guarantee that.
No, and we're actually that's another very significant point to bring up, is that the justification for pushing so heavily for the jab and all these restrictions is, we got to cut down on this spread. But exactly what you're saying, we're seeing that people that have got the jab are still getting the illness, so their likelihood of having symptoms goes down, but they still have a very comparable transmission and infection rate. So this whole idea of we got this pandemic of the unvaccinated and that they're going around spreading the disease. Well, it's the vaccinated that are spreading the disease at very comparable rates, just quite often probably more so because they're asymptomatic about it. So the whole thing is just, it's built on such flimsy logic then we're not actually going to accomplish the set goals. Like COVID zero is lunacy. So it's just exhausting at this point. And to see that they're continuing to stack and stack and stack and build the pressure on people, even now, as we've got so much evidence that is coming out not in favor of lockdownerism and this whole branch COVIDian mindset, then like, when's the dam going to break? Like you were asking before, is it the vaccinating of the children? When I think is probably more likely is when we start designating the fully vaccinated as unvaccinated because they have an insufficient amount of boosters. I think that's going to do it.
We're getting there.
Yeah, like once they require 3, maybe the third one people will comply. What about fourth and fifth? Is that what you're saying?
Kind of balance that out.
Justin, you had those numbers on that for the third shot, and then the fourth shot would be even less, and then the fifth shot.
Yeah. So what we were seeing is from public polling data is that about 80% of people were willing to go and get vaccinated, even though higher than 20% of people had safety concerns regarding the vaccine. So some people were willing to just say, F it, I want to get on with my life. I'm going to get the jab. So you had 80% of people that did that. And they've been polling the people that are vaccinated and asking them if they're going to get boosters, if they have any interest in getting boosters. And it seems that about only 80% of those people are willing to proceed with getting boosters. So you're looking at about 64% of the population, like the 80 and the 80, that are willing to get to 3 jabs. And logic would reason that as the amount of jabs goes up, that the amount of people willing to buy in will go down. So by like the 5th jab, people will be no bueno on this.
Yeah, it will be like backwards. 20% are willing to take it, and 80 are like no.
Yeah, it'll eventually progress there, but yeah, it seems to be that's where we're at, or at least that's where it seems is the numbers are pretty consistent. Like the amount of the total population that was willing to get their first 2, a comparable percent of those people is willing to get the first booster.
And a lot of them already have. A lot of people are already booked for their third shot. I know I've met a couple that have had their 4th shot prior to because of the mixing matching and having to like go back and refix whatever they had gotten. But I think what the issue is, and I don't know if you guys already talked about this, but like I went back and listening to this, they didn't even have a conversation amongst themselves. I know they can't talk to the people speaking, but they went from listening to the protest, or not the protest, but the signatures and talking about how they weren't wanting this passport program, and then went into how are we going to pay for it?
Did we lose you?
No, I'm here.
No,
Oh,
I'm listening.
So like they didn't even have a
Amber,
okay. Well, maybe we
there?
should have a conversation.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Is it
Can you
me
hear
that's buffering?
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. That must have been me that had connection issues. Sorry, my internet's atrocious. I'll have to get a new provider if I'm going to keep doing this. But I'm
No
sorry,
worries.
Mercedes. Would you mind repeating what you said?
Yeah, no, my issue is that with this conversation today, the whole point of the people coming out for this town council was to say, hey, we're paying for this place, and we had made a plan and on the assumption that there was going to be no passport, and we were okay with that. We were okay with the 30%. We were okay. We were doing all right. And now you guys are coming in and changing things on us. And then instead of having a discussion and saying, hey, maybe we should hold off and continue having a conversation, they just went into how are we going to pay for that person to do it? And I don't know if you guys already talked about that, but I think that even if they didn't talk to the people, like the public speakers, they should have at least had a conversation amongst themselves and said, hey, this is now something that we need to talk about because there is now signatures here. There's enough people here to have a conversation and slow things down at the very least.
Well,
So I don't
yeah,
know,
and we
Justin,
did
you-
talk about it a little bit, and it's so. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I just want to make sure that my connection is good. Can you hear me?
It's choppy,
Okay,
but you're
perfect.
good.
So,
Keep going.
yeah, part of the process for public comment. Okay. So part of the process for the public commentary is that it's a 2 minutes per person, and nothing that is on the agenda is supposed to be discussed. And council and people, it's supposed to just be an opportunity for people to make statements to council. So it's kind of flawed in that regard. It would be better if there was the opportunity for a little bit of a back and forth and a Q&A, but it was kind of designed a little bit to prevent being cornered by mobs of people like this. And I don't think that, well, I couldn't see all of council, but it seemed like the mayor he was very strict on keeping each person to their 2 minutes. He was rather short and curt with them overall, I think. And then when they went into the discussion around the funding, he went really heavily in favor of the REP. So yeah, he was holding to those rules by the T.
Which I'm fine with. I get that. But like to go and so coldly go to the next thing, like, yeah, I get it. A few of you guys are upset. I don't care. Let's figure out a way to pay for this person. So maybe it was just the way that he did it. Like there's no, we are a town. We have to communicate. And then that little jab afterwards, someone saying you need to unite the town and him just saying that's not a part of it. Kind of set the tone clearly.
Yeah. Well, I haven't really gotten clear indication that council made the approval to even go forward with the REP program. Like Amber, you were saying that it sounded like maybe the mayor gave Kevin the blessing to go ahead and do this, and then
that's what I heard. I don't remember the person who told me that.
It doesn't matter.
I don't remember the name of the person, but I talked to somebody, and I think that's like either from Stewart, something Stewart. Like I don't remember honestly, but what happened is I tried to reach to the mayor, and he didn't answer. I called him twice. He actually gave me his personal cell number during the election when I talked to him, and he said, "Oh, call me anytime you want, as long as it's not like after late, basically."
Yeah.
So he didn't answer. But when I talked to somebody, I don't remember, unfortunately, but he said basically that he actually was able to reach to him, and he asked him about that, and he said that it was the sole decision of Kevin Lucas, but he gave him his approval.
This is what that would look like.
Yeah.
But he said that the mayor and the whole council, including the mayor, stand behind the decision. That's basically what he said.
Residential funding versus commercial funding.
It was Kevin Lucas' decision, and he stands by him and the council.
Is obviously we consume more than a single family dwelling, and that would set the rate.
Wait, so this is the same Kevin that that said in the email that they were not going to do it back in October?
We wanted to make a comparison for council as well.
The CEO. So I don't think he was he a CEO in October? I think, yeah.
I'm sorry, was Kevin the CAO in October?
No, he was the one that did the. No, he was the one that did the email in the one public speaker.
A lot of heads at the table in say Edmonton and some of those other communities in terms of how they're going to set their rates. And so you can see it does vary quite a bit.
Hey, sorry about that. My connection is just real rough. You were asking if Kevin was.
Yeah, in the public speaker, that talked about
did I
how
get
they
kicked out again?
maybe.
Kevin has been the CAO since, well, officially since September. So the answer to that would be yes. And he was the interim CAO before then since about June, I think.
Yeah, no, Justin, this was the question, like when the public speaker was speaking, she said
Oh.
that there was an email conversation between her and a Kevin Lucas. This is the same person, the CAO, correct?
Yes, yes.
That was the person. So this Kevin that's now starting and getting this approval for the REP is the same person that directly said they weren't going to do the REP when they were starting up the hockey planning.
100%, yes. And that's another point that we should focus on, is that it does seem that Kevin misled people. They explicitly asked him before they started their organizing for the year if they should, or if rather there was going to be the REP program, so that they could plan accordingly. And he told them, it's rather firmly, it sounded like, that no, there would not be.
Wait to the end of discussion.
Well, and then what happens to the people that put money down for annual memberships and such? And I don't know how the Vermilion one goes, but the C2 in Bonnyville, if you put in paid that $200, $300, $400 for an annual program, and then you're not allowed to join in or not allowed to go, what does that mean? You went and were planning for this, paid for this, and now you're not even allowed to use the money you spent.
Yeah, you made an unknowing donation to whatever organization.
We'll need a first reading. Right?
Oh, it wouldn't be a donation. I'd be expecting a full refund plus some for my my upset change of plans.
Yeah.
Some grievance pay.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you were going to pay for the gym and then the gym changes it to a passport only and you're not able to go, I would be making them provide me the gym equipment that I was going to be using. Loan it out, I don't care, but provide that, because you're taking the opportunity for me to use it, and it's a publicly paid for gym. Hell no.
Yeah, well, I think that might be slightly unreasonable, but I could totally see them having to refund you whatever remaining time on your membership.
Where is it unreasonable? Because for me, I do think that they wouldn't do that. They will never do that. But at the same time, it's like what you call it, like the missed opportunity cost kind of thing. Like me making plan and now they change on it. Like speaking of gyms, for example, you know that the gym that was here at Branded closed, right? A while ago.
Oh, okay. Was that after the COVID?
Oh yes,
that's too bad.
Yeah, I used to go work out there because I needed the workout, because when it's winter, especially, like I get seasonal depression. So workout actually helped me, because coming from Egypt, it doesn't help with no sun.
Yeah.
So I used to go there, and now I can't. I have to go. Like the only option is the college, and I don't really like the college gym that much. I went once. So when I actually the thing that actually depressed me more about that was I looked at actually the number of deaths in people under 40. So I assume most of us are under 40, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The number of deaths in Alberta and you under 40 is 46.
Like total.
Total 40 since the start of COVID. 48 now, I think, because when I looked, it was a while ago.
Yeah, and what's the level of comorbidity among those? Probably pretty high.
True, yes. But the thing is, there's more people who actually died from other stuff. For example, take overdose in Alberta. Under 40, we're actually close to 100.
Oh, wow.
And it increased by a time and a half during COVID. So there's more people who died probably just from the lockdowns because of depression and overdose, basically, because of the lockdown under 40 than people actually who died from COVID. And when you think of gym, a lot of people who go to gym are usually under 40. There's people who are older than that, but the majority probably younger.
Yeah, well, it's the amount of benefits from that kind of thing. Even sorry.
Yeah, I'm saying it wasn't justified to close it, but because a lot of people maybe who needed the workout or were getting something out of it, like some positive energy or anything, can do that and maybe cause some people to actually, turn into a drug or something like that. Not that
for sure.
Most people did, but some did. Like I
or
have a
just
coworker.
didn't take care of themselves and ate a little bit more junk food, ate out a little bit more because that was an excuse to get out of the house, started smoking more, all of those little things to get out of the house, go and do something. I mean, I know several stay-at-home moms, their gym time was their saving time. They were able to just get out of the house. They had no kids. They were just running on the treadmill for 20 minutes, an hour. Like it meant so much more to them than just being physically in the gym working out. And I mean,
The same for
I
me,
think
by
it
the
may be
way.
asking a little bit more for them to recoup and like provide those gym equipment. But there's actually quite a few gyms in the city here that actually did offer that and created a business where they were doing like they had a membership program, so you were able to kind of loaned out work equipment or gym programs and such. And that way you're still like, you're getting out of the house to go and pick it up and drop it off, but you also had like a little bit more community, had that person at the gym that you knew to say hi to every time. And if they didn't come one week, you could ask them the next week and kind of, gym buddies keep you going. There's a lot of that is needed, and maybe it's asking too much, but if you ask for more, you're likely to get what you're owed, more than if you ask for the exact amount.
Yeah, well, the disruption to routine and things like that, I think, is really critical. Like, we very much are creatures of habit, and to throw a sudden monkey wrench into like 80-90% of your routines like that, in particular the gym, is really damaging. And I hate that they still put so much restriction on the gym when it's shown to make such a big difference, like your level of fitness, that is, to how you handle getting COVID if you do happen to get it. Like, and the thing that drives oh my goodness, I completely lost my train of thought. My apologies. Someone else talk.
No, you're talking about the gym and that
Yes. Sorry, I remember what I was going to say. I recently was reading about this study where they were polling people in June, I believe it was, of 2020, and they found that 25% of the, I think if it might have been 25 or younger or 30 or younger, it was young people, but 25% of them reported having thoughts of ending themselves, kind of thing, during that month. And I just that's gross. There's no way that is the typical number. I haven't seen numbers on it, but that seems a little high. And that kind of stuff is dark. But what do you expect when you pull people out of school? You pull them out of their social lives, restrict how much family they can even see, don't let them go to the gym, don't let them do anything. Like, tough situation.
Yeah, and I totally can relate with that. Like, it's always been hard for me since I'm always by myself. Like, I have my kid with me, but a lot of time when he goes to his mom, it's really hard. And the winter also away from family and isolated. The gym was actually like recommended to me by a therapist that I should go to the gym, and I started doing that. Like after my first 3 years here and things was being tough, he recommended that I should do that, like work out. So I didn't go there just like for fitness. I went there actually as a kind of a therapy. So now it's actually much harder, of course.
Yeah, it's a real struggle, and just the constant beatdown. We've just been under pressure for so long now that we're just so willing to accept things that would have sounded absolutely horrific a year ago.
Councilor Martin, please.
Yeah. Well, look at a lot of these kids nowadays, like the kids going into school next year, half of their lives are going to be through COVID, or a third of their lives have been in COVID world. And it's disgusting. Like my daughter, she's 3 and most of her life has been in COVID. And how does she learn interactions? The only reason she's as socially aware is because of her cousins in school and preschool, and the fact that we were able to do daycare or have friends that are similar ages, and that we kind of skirted the rules or ignored them altogether. Children need people. taking them to the
Yeah.
grocery
So we
store,
can
to
discuss
like the
utility rates
stories in Ontario or even BC,
included in that, isn't it?
single mothers weren't allowed to bring their children into
utility rates
Costco or
included in that
the grocery store with them because they didn't have childcare. They weren't allowed to have childcare. They weren't allowed to have friends over. And they needed to get food, but they weren't allowed in the store because they had their children with them. And it's disgusting. My children have struggled going to the grocery store still. And then to see other ones go and just, they don't even take them anymore. They don't get those social interactions. And it's so important.
Yeah, well, you have that person that you know that doesn't even go to the grocery store anymore. That just got
Yeah.
so used to the whole routine of ordering groceries right to the door that that's just an excised part of their life.
She'll actually plan her day around getting the groceries delivered rather than making a trip out. And it's tough to make that world because I take those kids with me and they do great. They excel. They say hi to random people. You see how many grandparents or grandparent aged people that are just so excited to see these little kids about again. And it's so important for these intergenerational relations. My kids go and see an older person with some silver hair and they call them grandma and grandpa and say hi.
Understanding
It's
the tough
really
times,
important that those children
I
get
believe
that.
That's too bad.
administration's done a really good job.
Hey, check that out.
uh,
Can you
to
see
look
that?
after
Thanks for
Yeah,
joining.
what's happening in our community. We have to look at it as a community
So
as
what
a
is
whole,
exactly
what's
the
going to
StreamYard? Is
community
like,
as a whole.
Yeah, this is
Um,
StreamYard.
so what
Previous
exactly?
councils have
Here, let's talk about this
basically
after. I want to
run
hear them
0%
wrap up this budget talk, if you guys don't
0%
mind.
Yeah,
over those years. And when you look at our community compared to other communities, I think Brian even showed us a slide. I don't know if we have that slide. Shows us where our community is in relation to others as far as per capita tax rate, and we're at the bottom. And if we start running at 0 or trying to run at 0%, we're gonna. It's either you pay now or you're gonna pay later, and it's to me this is a reasonable approach to the taxation. And I agree on the utility rates. I think that's another discussion coming forward. But as far as this motion here, gosh, I'm in favor of that 2.2%. And when you look at other communities around us,
2.2%.
we're being fair. We're really being fair. And
2.2%
public
of
wants
what?
services. They want
2.2%
they
increase on
want the water,
taxes.
the sewer. We got a new sewer plant that
But
needs
that's
to go
on
to
your
Bethel.
gross. It's probably your mill rate increase is
We've
probably
got
a lot
the
higher than that.
water through ACE Commission. That water is being pumped in from Edmonton, so there's a cost. And if we want to maintain the level of services that we have and the lifestyle that we have in our community, boy, we're 2.2% is pretty reasonable as far as I'm concerned.
They should have put more communities in there, and it's incredibly misleading to put the
So I wouldn't
counties on.
disagree that people here want to maintain the level of service and want to maintain the amenities that are available to them. But at the same time, this has been a trying period of the last 2 years for our business owners and our employees in general. I don't know, honestly, barely I know a single person that didn't take a pay cut in the last 2 years. And I feel like asking for more money now is just almost to the point of blatant disrespect.
100%.
Constituents.
Josh is kind of level-headed on that.
Councilor Raymond. I will ask the question to Brian. If we have two sides of the fence here, is a 1.1%, or what happens to our budget if we're splitting the number in half?
Well, man, they were spending money on like putting lights and stuff in the arena. Like that stuff can be kicked down the line.
I should perhaps clarify now too, in preparing this budget, the staff are very conscious of the increase. We are ratepayers here in town, so we made every measure we could to ensure that the increase is as minimal as possible.
They're hiring more staff.
A needs budget versus a wants. There are some items that change, like mentioned earlier, insurance and fuel and some utilities. We have no discretion over those costs. We took every discretionary item we could to reduce that overall cost.
For reference, 1% is $50,000 out of taxes out of people's pocket.
Some level of service costs or increased risk.
1% is 50,000 from
Is an,
everyone.
yeah, from the whole community. Every 1% increase is an extra $50,000.
So this job that they're getting for the rank for the passports is going to what at minimum wage, part-time. How
Yeah. It's
much
like minimum
income are
wage,
they
yeah.
going to increase, or like how much extra revenue are they going to have by now allowing full capacity? Like,
Well, and what they don't include is that's not their money. That would be to whoever they contract the concession out to that takes that.
Yeah, which is
like they might get
what
more
we-
tickets,
like
ticket sales, but that's not for them.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. But is that Junior B money? Like, how much of a cut does the town take? I don't know if they take any. I think they just rent the ice out.
Yeah, the concession I think is going for lasting impression.
Councillor
That's what I
Martin,
hear.
think that
Yeah, they would probably just be hours rented, but then it's gonna no matter what they do, they're not going to increase the revenue enough to get a profit off of that new job that they now have to post.
100%. And it's death by 1,000 cuts. That's how the government slowly suffocates people.
As Brian had mentioned, we prepared a
They're just burning their own rank. May as well shut it down. Bonnieville just announced that too. They're now doing that for all Junior A games, that they're going to have the passport because people are upset that they can't go to the bar. But the bar is a sealed off area. You can go into that area with the passport, go and sit down and eat or drink, and then go into the arena and watch the game. But they're not deciding that. They're just saying all Junior A games passport.
The last 2 years, we've had a
Too bad.
very slim budget.
And I mean, my kids grew up watching those games.
Yeah, me too. Here, let's hear what Kevin say.
The cost to the community has not gone up. We can surely look at it, but it will affect levels of service within the town. And those, then I would like direction on what services we would be.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. Councillor Pulick?
So full of it.
We did have a finance committee meeting. We went through all the information that Brian provided. There was suggestions to look at, different options. I don't recall any discussions about concerns of coming up with different options for 2.2 or less than a 2.2 or 0%, and what those options could look like. So that it's a bit disappointing to see that this discussion is happening at this point in time when we all met before to talk about these things, and now we're trying to change the direction.
He always tries to guilt trip
This
people.
is going to, if this motion's defeated, then that
Yeah.
will require a special meeting prior to our next council meeting.
Then do it.
And I would hope that if it comes to that council bring forward what services they would like our community to not have.
What a lack of originality.
without
Come
this in
on.
place and understanding what the repercussions are going to be for 2023 as we move ahead.
I guarantee there's $100,000 in IT that
It's
they
not
could
gonna
cut.
go away for quite a while. I would say our community has been fairly consistent, robust with COVID. We've had lots of new businesses come on stream, even during the tough times. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. It's going to require some input from everybody as to what services you want to see cut, and bring that forward to the next meeting so that when we meet again at our next council meeting, that we've got to move forward on this budget, because administration needs to have some money available to start running and operating this facility. We do have two more, a second and a third reading to do to finalize this. So time is of urgency to make some pretty serious decisions here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pulick. Councillor Conlon, please.
Paul, what do you got to
An
say?
increase in tax. I don't.
He's going to
But
justify it.
unfortunately, if you just push it off, it's just going to get bigger.
That's not what he ran on.
If you do the increase now,
Nope.
it won't have to be as harsh later on. The increase has to come.
We
If
should actually
increase happens,
pull.
increase happens, period.
But the economy we
It's
have
not
right now,
increase now or don't or increase more
nothing's
later.
getting cheaper.
Exactly, especially when you increase now, it compounds over
Food prices
time.
are skyrocketing.
Yeah, because the interest rate is just going to compound, and then guaranteed it's going to increase more later.
But man, someone should pull these guys' video, both their response to COVID and their response on affordable living in the community.
I know, and that's the funny thing.
Yeah. Well, Justin, what is this 1% increase to an individual homeowner?
Very resilient.
It depends what your property's worth. So I
But an
pay a
average
little.
home.
So I pay, or the average home that they probably pay $250 a month, maybe $250 a month on property taxes. So this is another, I guess, $5 a month.
Being cut as much as paying.
Okay, so it could be worse, but also this is now 2.2%, and you're not getting any actual value out of it. All they're doing is saying you gotta cut a whole chunk out of the budget line. We're not going to reassess and play with the individual items in the budget. We're just going to have each as is, pretend that they're the Bible. I mean, like the IT, you can shave here, or the lights, that's a part of recreation. You can shave there. It's not a full item line.
Yeah, absolutely. Tons of this stuff could be shaved down. And the other thing that they're not talking about either is, we were talking over it, so we missed what the exact numbers are, but they had utility rate increases as well. So sure, each month you get billed from them twice if you're on a monthly pay for your property taxes. So you get your utility bill and your property tax. So now both of them are going to go up.
So we're all looking at an average of even if that $5 for the 1%. So you're looking at about $15 just for taxes a month, plus however much for utilities, not including the actual cost of utilities growing exponentially right now. Insurance is about to grow with that change in the process of it in Alberta as of January. The new childcare taxes, I'm hearing so many places are actually cutting their part-time childcare. So you're going to have an increase of childcare spots that are unavailable, or people that aren't able to use it. There's going to be a lot of increases in general.
Well, they've essentially just decided to take an hour a month from everybody.
At least.
I don't think it's fair.
My time's not worth that. My time's far more
Here,
worth.
let's maybe they're having a pretty lively discussion on this. Maybe let's save our conversation for when they're on boring stuff.
Essentially on advice of Councillor Pugh, saying that discussion was meant for council chambers, not for private meetings. So that's why it's being discussed now.
Oh, shots fired. Take that, Rob. Damn right. Way to go, Councillor Raymond. Yeah.
Josh is the one that I actually like most, to be honest.
Yeah, he was standing up against the COVID nonsense too.
I like it, but thank you for all the questions and comments, you guys. One of Councillor Pulick's comments was after our meeting a few weeks ago, we had agreed and we didn't discuss much. I'm going to admit, in my seat, it has been a whirlwind for the last 6 weeks for me. For me to all of a sudden look at a budget 2 weeks ago and say, yeah, that looks awesome. It's not going to happen. We have transparency in our new council, and we will continue to have transparency in this council.
He's the one that ran for mayor.
And question the tough questions, and we will respect everybody's comments at this table. And I think they've all been very good, honest questions and comments. I am not in favor of full 2.2. I do believe Councillor Raymond is very correct in saying we are the council that has to look like the bad ones, doing the highest tax raise over the last 3 years. It's very unfortunate.
Are they making you guys cop-outs, saying that they have to be the bad ones because of you guys?
Who like previous council?
Yeah, just sounds like we now have to be the bad guys.
And it's a tough decision. We've
So,
talked about it, and I think we've been transparent and honest to everybody that's here and that's listening, and honest to ourselves what we've just discussed. Any more questions or comments, please?
I don't think so. I think he was just saying in general we have to be the bad guys. If
Then
he
I'll
was
ask the
taking a
question.
shot at prior council, that's disingenuous.
All in favor?
Mhm.
So they just go for
Opposed?
2.2?
I don't think so. I think they said to
Carried.
continue talking.
No, it looks like 2 against, Josh and the
We have a
mayor
motion For
against.
the second one, I believe, Mr.
Hmm.
Lucas, right?
Oh, so they're doing multiple readings. Yeah, it looks like they're
I will
going
ask
with the
for motion,
2.2.
Please,
So he's upset, but he's still gonna go.
Councilor Raymond.
They just want this over and done with
Pretty much. This is
because
going to
it
be a
doesn't
very
mean anything to
unpopular
them.
evening for them.
Town of Vermilion approve first reading of the 2022 to 2026 capital budget and forecast with expenditures and funding detailed in Appendix B.
Yeah, between this and the passport or lack thereof conversation about it, nobody's gonna be
Councilor
happy
Raymond.
about this.
Questions or comments, please? Councilor Pulick?
So let's confirm.
So, sorry for
Like,
the
where's
misunderstanding
where's
here.
Paul?
So,
Was Paul? Oh no, Paul was pro
does this
increase.
motion include the change in the rate for the water? It does. So we need a discussion on that, right? So I'll begin the discussion on that if that's okay.
This is what I was talking about. So it's
I know
not
there's an
only the
idea
increase to
floating around
taxes,
to
it's
see
the
if there is
increase to
something
utilities too.
different that we could do in relation to the
Slimy.
water rates.
Yeah.
There is some
Here, I gotta run to the washroom. I'm gonna step
perception
away
that
for a
the sewer
second.
consumption rate of $1.57 per cubic meter is really not perceived as the wrong thing to do. Yet we've seen other communities. I believe Calgary had the same rate as us, $1.57 per cubic meter.
Calgary's not the one to compare
Yes,
to.
Calgary,
Yeah,
$1.57.
definitely.
They also
I
have
think to
far more
me, to
people.
go to switch this
Yep.
is
But they are talking per capita, but they
it,
still,
I mean, going from a
it's apples and oranges
$10.12
there.
single family flat rate
Where's
sewer to
other
44
places that are similar
is quite a jump.
sizes? There's no other place on
no,
that list that is a similar
The
size to you
premises of
guys.
the previous program was water conservation.
No, in that place, no.
So
On that list, no.
Yeah, no.
$44
Where's like a
and 38
Bonnyville or a St.
To me,
Paul, which is in similar
all of us would
areas,
be
have similar water
compensating for those
systems?
that want to have a pool, want to have 3 showers a day, want to water the lawn steady. There's no premise to conserve water. And now that I'm on the Ace Water Commission, I have to note that Ace Water Commission pegs for their budgeting purposes, they eyeball how much every community is going to use on an annual basis to set their budget. So if communities use less, then Ace Ace doesn't get quite as much money, but they kind of budget to get hedge it as close as they can. If a community goes over that consumption rate, then boy, we're going to be paying a lot. And don't forget, this water comes all the way from Edmonton, and
Edmonton's not that
so
far when you
without
look at
having
water
any control,
systems.
No, it's
without
not.
being
It's like
flat
what,
rate
200,
for
not
that,
even
no
200
there's
from
no
there,
desire from any
180.
community
Yeah.
to really
No, this
try
isn't,
and
that's
conserve
just
the
an
water
excuse all the
consumption. I think
way
that's
from
really
Edmonton.
important that we have a mechanism in place that those people that want to use more water, let them pay that fee. If I want to conserve water, then I'm going to be paying less. So I pulled out my particular water bill, and my
This is
consumption
defeats the
was 8
purpose
cubic
of
meters.
what budgeting should do. You should be
Now,
looking at an average and then
for that sewer
setting your budget
consumption rate of
around that average and
$1.57,
then
I'm paying
shaving here and there, not creating a
$12.66.
budget and then
Now, if
making
we
the
switch
average
over to the
happen.
$45
It is actually funny that the mayor in his video, he said he's not
I'll
in
be
favor of
paying
increasing
on my
budget, but
bill an
actually, and
additional
he can't lower it
$15
either
per
because that's a hard thing, but he's
So
more
I'm going to
into
be
looking
subsidizing
into how
somebody that wants to use
money can
more
be
water.
spent more
And
efficient.
I don't
That's
think
what his
Yeah.
words,
that
by the way.
And
That's
efficiency
not
is looking
I
at
would,
what we do on average as
I'm
human
more in
beings for
favor
people in
of
a
not
community and then
and
working
staying
around
with
it.
the current system that we
Yeah,
have.
but it doesn't feel like he's in favor of that efficiency, though.
Councilor Raymond.
Sorry,
Yeah.
what did I miss?
They're just talking about the budgets of the water, and they even put up a list to compare. They're comparing you guys to Calgary and Red Deer, and maybe Vegreville was in there, but they're not comparing you to other towns your size or similar systems to actually compare
What is
pricing. It doesn't make sense.
Sorry, what is, I think Joshua saying something about that. So.
By our usage right now is assuming everyone's using about 22 cubes of water a month. So is that's our average? So yeah, I just struggle with your premise of argument. I don't disagree with flat rate might not be the best thing, but I just had a hard time going through that. Would you be able to clarify?
How about we worry about, data and phone and such? That's far more important in dropping pricing or usage. Water is water.
I'm sorry, they're proposing a flat rate for residential?
The water that you use.
And if you go over it,
and only consumption for condos and multi-dwellings? That's ludicrous. What a terrible idea. Then you lose all incentive for people to use less water.
That volume of water goes to the
well, yeah, for the people that use around the average, but for people that use more because they have a bigger household or whatever, they're going to be the ones that are getting binged for that.
Based on your water
No. If it's a flat rate, then you just pay whatever. Like I'm in favor of pay by the cube.
Oh,
that's pretty low. So, do I want to compensate somebody that's going to be using more?
Exactly.
Paying the $44.30. I'm not in favor of it.
No, I agree with him.
Okay, that's what I thought he was saying. That's the system that they're not going for. They don't want to go for.
Sorry, who was saying
Well, that's what they're discussing.
Brian, I understood that by making it a flat rate, it allowed for the sewer plant to be paid off quicker. Is that incorrect?
It shouldn't make a difference.
So I think they our debt payments on that sewer plant are fairly rigid at this point. They are dependent on our overall cost, and so I apologize for the my lack of clarity and explanation for that. It's more or less the same revenue requirement either way, and so the sewer plant debt associated with it will get paid off on the same term regardless.
Thank you, Brian. Mr. Lucas, do you want to add anything to this? Should I put you on the speaker for a minute?
Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. I think what
this is terrible. Whose idea was to go on a flat rate?
Again, is an option.
I think it was Robert again because he was the one who said he was in the water committee.
Sewer consumption rates.
Yeah, that's right. He was very pro it, just that it was an even number that they can just budget.
He's such a hack.
Knowing that you better use 2 cubes of water in your garden and on your lawn, but you're still paying that for a sewer that it didn't actually enter. So there's that magic number, magic formula, if you will.
Okay, so now he's trying to say that it.
Rate is trying
okay, I'll explain after.
Absorb the water that goes to washing cars, gardens, lawns, and not into the sewer, but we still have to pay for that water coming in.
The fairest way was a 1-to-1. That if you use the water, you pay for sewer costs to dispose of that water. Sure, if you're putting that on your grass, then it's obviously not going down the sewer line. But at the end of the day, you made a choice to pay that water, and the easiest or to use that water, and the easiest way is to just tie it 1-to-1 with your consumption.
How sewer equates to water.
Yeah, less messy that way.
Water in the lawn. And it's not going in the sewer.
And there's no such thing as a magic number, a magic plan or formula. Stop playing that word.
But I mean, and honestly, at the end of the day, people aren't supposed to be watering their lawns to the extent that they do. So honestly, if we can disincentivize people or reverse incentivize people from doing that, then all the better. So I'm not
but that's
in favor
also
of giving.
disincentivizing planting plants, watering plants, and creating that system. I think they should increase the gardens and the hobby veggies in your front yard first.
Yeah, but the amount of water that you're going to use from, your water beds and stuff is nowhere near comparable to what you do if you were watering your entire lawn.
True, and including all the fertilizer in that and all the other additives that you're adding into the sewer and such.
This is a terrible plan. Like, because Like Rob made the most astute point. It's like, why should I be paying for the people that are watering their lawns and watering their vehicles and stuff when I'm not doing that consumption? And that's what you get out of the flat rate. It's just an even wash.
Yeah.
For the consumption.
At that point, I will wash my car too, right?
Well, you remove the incentive from using less. Like
and then everybody's going to use more eventually.
Exactly, because either way, chances are that you're paying for more than you're using if you're trying to be frugal about it. So it's the same way. It's why when you have an apartment building and you just charge like a flat rate for utilities or a flat rate for rent, and you don't include utilities, people will like leave the windows open and like run their showers for like 45 minutes.
Oh, I definitely have more showers when I'm in a condo than when I'm paying for my own water.
Yeah,
It's not in your mind.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I live in an apartment, I sometimes leave a light off. I fall on bed, like sleeping, and I forget the light on. So usually, if it's you're paying for electricity, you'll be like, turn off all the lights or the TV before you sleep. When you're not paying for it, you're less incentivized to try to actually do that.
Exactly.
The volume
and like this idea of like when you put it just average it out and figure it out based on the entire year, then people are just that much less connected to it. And so yeah, if you do just abuse the water, then obviously the flat rate for the charge in the next year is going to be higher. But they're proposing flat rates for the water too. You're kidding me.
It's clearly visible even in terms of the consumption rate.
It may sound good for the next year, maybe the next 2 years, but 3-4 years down the line, it's not going to be good. And this is just going to set them up for the next election to look worse, which doesn't make sense.
But I don't I was talking, like, I don't know about Drake Thompson, but like in the last 4 election, we only had 1-term mayor, right? I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've had quite a few one-termers.
Yes, and I was talking to somebody today, and he said, and mark my word, he is gonna be a 1-term mayor too. I was like,
but
keeps it up, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've been watching all these streams, like all of their council meetings, and that you should have seen it. So their first one in November, they're supposed to have 2 meetings in November. And then one of their first things that they do is they cancel their second meeting in November because the next day they had to be at the AUMA convention. Whereas like it's always been that you have that meeting before and then you go down there. And it's kind of good because the meeting gives you a quick opportunity after just to chat amongst yourselves and discuss, strategy and stuff for the convention. But like they just started pushing hard on like they used safety as an excuse for probably like 4 things that they approved in that meeting, and they kept going back to that well. And safety is the easiest excuse to justify almost anything. Like it
especially with
I
the
don't know.
fear factor nowadays, it's just so
it's
easy.
such a cop-out.
It's for your own safety. But it's a deterrent. How many town council meetings is this now? Since they created or started together?
They had October, November, and then this would be their third, I think.
Their third. Okay, so this is their third. They still seem very brand new. They still don't have any real process.
I know we have a motion.
And they're not really talking about anything in general. They're just kind of chit-chatting. It doesn't sound like anybody's been doing any of the background data or like talking to the people. Just like, hey, this is my opinion. This is why. And it is what it is.
I can speak if they're actually been talking to the people much, but I actually tried to reach to some of them and seem some of them are really, really clueless about what's going on. Like, and I don't want to like diss anybody, but I would say I talked to Kirby a lot, and he doesn't seem to know anything. It's just sad to say.
Too bad.
Yeah,
because you went and got all of these people to vote for you. The least you can do is talk to the supporters, if not the entire town, and say, hey, now that I'm in, thank you. What did you want me to do more? Now that I'm here, I can't really do this, and I get it, like the taxes increase. Okay, you guys all begged for less. You're not able to. So talk to them and see what's the most
Yeah, like
important part of it.
I remember a guy
I think we have a motion.
who a really awesome guy actually. Like I was knocking on door like for my campaign, and I knocked on his door, and he talked to me, and we had a good conversation. And then he called me after, and he said, I'm gonna vote for you. I like what you said, but I wish that you would do one thing. After you get in, at least every 6 months, try to check on with the people like around you. Like
That's important.
I said, like I said, yeah, I can look into that, but it's really hard to know how to do that. Like you're probably not gonna call everybody. He's like, no, but if you put a message on or send like mail around and ask people to fill a survey or send you a comment, some of them will do that. It's just a problem for him that people usually, after he votes, he never hear from them.
Yeah.
Of
Well, and
course
that's
he
what
can
Justin and
try
I were
to-
talking about. Get to know the people that were voting, get to know what the people want, and then find out what went wrong. Find out what their interests were and what their interests now, and see what changed. What made the people that were super excited to go and vote and then didn't. Those questions are super important. And then, like, how is this going to like? What's their reaction to this 2.2% increase?
We can make
That's
that
super
as a
important.
friendly
What's the reaction? Are they going to know about the increase on the utilities at the same time? Or are they going to just think it's a utility increase because it's around the same time that all of the utilities get increased anyway?
See, and that's another thing I was thinking about. There's not a lot of communication, and yes, we do have in the paper like somebody who covered the town council. I read about it, but I think that they're like this is another thing I've been looking into actually, like doing like because we don't get a lot of like online media coverage. Like it used to be some like Lakeland Connect, they used to do that. They don't do that in this town anymore. So it kind of seems like only people who read the paper might read about that. And that's not many people.
Well,
And
that's part
unfortunately,
of why we.
Lakeland Connect's going to stop.
Yeah, that's too bad. Why are they going to stop?
Well, because Chad, one of the owners of Lakeland and Bonnyville, he lost his seat in town council, and that was half the reason why they were doing so much media on the town council in Bonnyville, was because their member was in it, and now he doesn't have a seat anymore, so they're less likely to do every meeting. They're less likely to ask the questions afterwards or talk about the discussions. Chad was on what? 8 or 9 boards, and he was on the council, and he was a part of the junior A's group, and so he was really a part of a lot of those things, and so he was talking about it.
Yeah, but they also like downsized a lot. They get rid of their border here. They get rid of their sales person here. They don't cover this town like barely.
Yeah, which is sad. They try, but they don't do enough. They almost need a couple satellite locations in St. Paul or Vermilion and be Lakeland Connect instead of just Bonnyville Connect.
Well, is that where Angela Mooley went to work, Amber?
Council for the town of Vermilion.
Yeah, she used to work there.
The current utility model.
And she's no longer on the Vermilion beat?
She used to work for them for a while, and then what happened is they laid her, like put her like on a leave.
Oh,
and I don't know
that's
after
too bad.
that. So.
I will ask the question.
Yeah, it's been like a while. She's on a leave.
That's a real shame.
Yeah, it's awful. Yeah. And that's another thing. Like I don't know.
Sorry,
I'm actually looking at this. Oh, sorry.
Hey,
go ahead.
hold on. I want to hear what they're saying.
I understand how much water I'm using, but then I get this extra bill for the sewer because it never hits the sewer. So I like the set rate just for that fact, just because there's a lot of lawn watering and flowers. And
See, he's one of the abusers of the water that doesn't want to have to pay for it.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Any more comments or questions? Then I will ask the question. All in favor? Opposed?
So our opposed
Carried.
look, that's Paul, the mayor, and Josh.
Thank you very much, everybody.
So was opposed must be wanting flat rate then, because if Paul just spoke to how much he wants flat rates, is that correct?
We'll move on to committee reports.
Yeah, he was. So
did they get the flat rate?
It looked like Paul and the mayor's motion failed, or the one that they were supporting failed, and the one that Josh. But there's Kirby. Yeah, you can't always see Kirby in frame.
Yeah.
Comments or questions, Mr.
So can,
Seabrook?
yeah,
Counselor
if I check the minutes later, I
Mayor,
can see actually the
just
breakout
comment
of the
that
vote.
I want to congratulate the
No, only if
for
it's a
putting
recorded
on,
vote will you be able to see how
this
people voted.
event. And we had a very
Oh.
good turnout considering
You'll
That's
just
one
see
of the
if
downsides
it
about those conversations.
and whatnot.
yeah, you'll only see if
The
it passes or
the
not.
team that was responsible for
Okay, I
that
think we
quickly
should start recording this
thank the
meeting.
community that participated in that, and look, we're all looking
Like,
forward
Well,
to
if they're
the
only doing one a
possible.
month, it'd be pretty easy to set this
Absolutely.
time
Thank
aside
you.
and
Counselor
do
Pruitt?
this.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Yeah, it is easy actually.
Move on
Like,
to
yeah.
6.22,
Yeah.
minutes
Well,
for
and
November
then you're
1st,
able to talk to the
2021.
community
Oh,
more,
sorry. Back
communicate
up.
what's going
Parks
on.
Recreation, 6.2.
If they're not going to talk, and I mean, Justin, you were saying that
Minutes
it's
of
kind of
September
hard when you're
27th,
just a counselor
2021.
versus the
Any
mayor. The
comments or
mayor's kind of
questions
this
on
one
this?
spearheading the conversation. But
Martin?
there must be ways that,
Martin, go ahead.
if not us
Just saying
communicating,
over the
talking to
last
the different
meeting
counselors about
here,
it, should be able to get some information from them.
with the,
Information regarding what? Sorry, I was just
Like just what's
talking to someone.
going what's going on with the community, what's going on in town council, and like be
Oh
able
yeah.
to share that in a way that you were saying is a little bit more difficult just being on town council. At least we're watching
Yeah.
from a outside perspective.
Well, that's why I wanted to start doing this. Is there isn't a good opportunity to get some of this feedback and experience, and just to be able to keep track of what's going on. And if you're following this stuff in just no shame or anything, but just getting the recap in the paper, especially when the person writing that is just going off of the minutes and didn't actually attend the meeting, then you're really not getting the whole story. But to your point about like direction and stuff, yeah, the mayor does have like it's one vote out of 7, but they set the whole framework up for how council operates, and they're like the spokesperson for the town, and they're also the one that works most directly with the CIO, who is in charge of all of the administration. So they naturally have a lot more influence, as you're kind of seeing here, right? With the budget, a budget gets presented, and then they get to kind of discuss and complain about it, but they're already getting a budget that was created by somebody, right? And that's how it works, is you get like default decisions made, and then as an individual counselor you have to try and combat combat what's going on. Hey, so just to let you guys know, Brooke spoke at the meeting earlier. Brooke, do you have headphones or anything? I'm getting some echo.
Oh, sorry. I don't know.
No problem. I'll just mute you while I'm talking, and then we'll go from there.
No, you're not going to.
Okay, so as I was, Brooke actually was the first to present at the meeting earlier at the public commentary, speaking against the REP. So I shot her a message and asked if she wanted to come and talk to us a little bit about what was going on at that meeting, what her experience was, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to turn the live stream for the town down a little bit and pass things over to you, Brooke. If you oh, sorry, I just introduced it's me, Justin, and Amber is here, and Mercedes are here, and we've just been watching the town live stream and just kind of commenting on life and things in general. So I unmuted you. It's over to you.
Oh, okay. Well, it first started off with I walked in and there was a whole bunch of supporters that were there, which was great, but they weren't allowing us into the actual room. They were operating at 1/3 capacity, so only 2 of us could go in at a time, and they wanted to shut the doors on us. So everybody was getting really upset about that. But I went in and I said, I spoke my letter about the rep program and how, I mean, I don't understand why it couldn't operate at the 1/3 capacity. And then another lady came in and she read Kathy's letter. And then everybody else was either from out of town, like within the county, but they weren't allowed to speak, or else they were too jacked up and couldn't talk. So they gave me my 2 minutes. And at some point in time during my 2 minutes, somebody had called the police. So the police came And we've just spent the last like hour and a half standing in the lobby because we were waiting to find out what had happened. And we still don't know. I eventually just had to leave because I had to get my daughter to bed and whatever. But yeah, so I'm not sure yet. We're just waiting to hear what happened. I didn't see the rest of the. Have you guys been watching the town meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been watching the whole thing as it goes along.
Okay, and have they brought it up at all?
Yeah, they did a little bit. So right after you guys finished with your presentation, sorry, I'm just having to mute you in between because I'm getting really bad echo. Yeah, so after you guys spoke, they right away went into a conversation about having to approve funding, I guess, to hire an auditor to go ahead with the REP program, and so. There was a little bit of pushback from a couple members of council on it, but I believe that in the end it wound up passing. Is that correct, you guys?
Yes.
Yeah. So it looks like they are going ahead with the REP as is.
Okay, and so there's nothing else that we can do.
That's a tough one. We'll have to do a little more research and find out what's going on because they haven't had a motion in council where they ever approved going ahead with this REP. There might have been something through email, but there hasn't been anything that I've seen made public yet. And if they are going forward with a decision like this, they should have had something. So I think that we should still if this is a cause that's important to us, we shouldn't give up on it and keep laying some pressure on, because there were some members of council that seemed supportive of your position. It's just they didn't have the room today.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say too. I'm getting input again. So did you actually try to reach to any of the councillor, Brooke, before you went there or no?
So I sent a letter to the town right as soon as it was announced. From my understanding, Kevin Lucas is the one who made the original decision, and the council, quote unquote, supported his decision. But I don't think it's ever come to an actual vote.
Okay. About that, and he was like really. I was really disappointed because he told me that he doesn't want to say, he doesn't want to get in trouble, talk to the mayor. Basically, that's what I got out of him, which I didn't like at all. I tried to reach to the mayor and I got no answer. So I think maybe if you keep putting pressure, like many of us, send messages or keep putting pressure on the other councillor, especially I can see a guy like Joshua would be actually like on this side of the issue.
Josh seemed to be against a fair bit of that. He was one of the ones that seemed to be supportive of your position there. And that seems to be, that's what Amber was saying earlier, is that Kirby was kind of afraid of rocking the boat, but it doesn't sound like council actually voted. It sounded like the mayor just kind of met with Kevin and they made this decision and just informed everyone, but that could be a wrong impression.
Yeah, but I also
Amber, is that accurate?
Kirby, sorry. Yes, that's true. But also, I think Kirby is not on that side. I think Kirby was a lot of pressure. If you see a lot of people coming back to him at it, he might change his mind too. I am not sure, but he doesn't seem to be adamant on it when I talk to him. I don't know about Paul. I didn't talk to him. And Kevin seems like a reasonable guy too, Kevin Martin, from how I talked to him before. So maybe you can actually change some mind. It seems like the mayor is stuck on it.
Yeah, but the issue is what happens outside of the council is maybe different than what happens inside the council, especially if the mayor is very adamant for it. They're just going to kind of follow the boat because he's the experienced one on this council, and they have less voice, especially if Kevin's joining in on this. They're kind of just going to follow suit and grumble about it with the groups that are upset about it out in public, but then vote for it.
Well, and another thing, Brooke, sorry, Amber, another thing, Brooke, is they seemed concerned or rather the mayor's position was really coming from trying to stand up for the junior Bs. Is a lot of his point is he was relaying that the junior Bs make a lot more money when they follow the REP. When they have to limit their capacity, they lose out on a bunch of money. He said they were turning away people from Red Deer and Lethbridge and all this kind of stuff. I don't know if that's true, but it sounds like, you know, some pressure for the REP is coming from the junior Bs. Amber, what were you going to say?
I was gonna ask you, is there any other way to put pressure? Like, I know, like, the newspaper doesn't do a lot here, but I don't know, people can send letters. I don't know if Sue will put them on. Don't quote me on that.
Well, I think that your petition was a great start. What did you say? You had 300 people. Was that correct?
We're at 289 last I checked, so almost 300.
Wow. I
Yeah,
have a
and
question.
like there's like 4,000 people in the town.
Yeah, I have
Sorry,
a
go
question,
ahead,
Brooke.
Mercedes.
Did you do you know about this potential pressure that's coming from the junior Bs or coming from the individual parents, or maybe the organization is short funds or anything like that that could be causing this this conversation to come out of nowhere? Because I know you're not the only one doing this.
I know they definitely do make more money with their tournaments and everything on the weekend, which is why the original plan in place was if you're over the 1/3 capacity, then the rep program had to be put in place, which we all understood from the beginning of September when they opened up the rink to us. With the skating club, we were sent an email from Kevin Lucas himself, who specifically said that we will not be following the rep program, but potentially if we're over that 1/3 capacity, we have to put something into place, which makes sense. When you've got a tournament with hundreds of people from out of town all over the place, I understand that. But during the week, any given day, there's no concession, and there is maybe 50, 60 people in the entire building.
So maybe this conversation is actually about the regulations, because I know Alberta Health has made it so that you are either in the passports or you're out the passports. You can't go in one day and out the next. So maybe this is where the conversation is actually coming from, is that they want those weekends and they're willing to sacrifice your weekdays for it. And that might be where this is all coming from.
Yeah, because I thought that your proposed compromise, and I guess it wasn't even necessarily your proposal, but what Mr. Lucas led you to believe was happening was that REP would only be required for the really heavily attended events. And it sounds like you weren't the only one who was kind of had the rug pulled out from under you. The woman who spoke after you said that she had a direct conversation with Mr. Lucas about this very thing, and she was led to believe that no, they wouldn't be introducing any kind of program like this. So it's that kind of betrayal that I think really has some people upset.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where everything went kind of sideways, right? Because I did talk to Garth Roswell, his assistant or whatever, and he said that according to the Alberta guidelines, they can't jump back and forth. So you're right, Mercedes. But originally it was deemed that we would not have to follow those rules because there was no concession. So I don't know, like, we've got to find some sort of a solution for everybody, but I don't even on the weekends. So I'd like to know what the actual capacity is when they have the tournaments in place.
Do you happen to know what the max capacity for either of those arenas or facilities is? Like, when we're talking about 1/3 capacity, how many people is that allowing into the building? Like, how many people is when you're actually reaching the threshold that REP would be required?
I've heard various amounts. Some people have said 400 and some people said 800. So I don't know. We would have to look online to find out what the actual capacity of the stadium would be.
Yeah, I think we can find that easily. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I think we can find that easily. And if not, like, you know, I can ask Dawn too, like at the paper, she might even be able to find something.
Yeah. Well, another thing that I would recommend, Brooke, is go and check the Vermilion Chamber YouTube and pull some of those videos from our current council when they were asked the question directly about COVID restrictions and what their approach is on it. Because I don't recall entirely, but it seems like quite a few of the people that we have sitting around the council table this evening expressed feelings towards minimal, if next to no restrictions. So I don't think, I don't think any of them were necessarily in favor of increasing the level of restrictions.
Yeah, but this might be pushing from the junior Bs, or this like imaginary money that they might be getting. Like I get that they have reduced incomes due to the 1/3 capacity, but then there's also the question: how many people are actually going out this year versus 2 years ago or 3 years ago? It's definitely still less. So the value is they may be making more by changing things, thinking new, creating a eating area so that you actually have a restaurant area that you can do the REP for, and then having the rest of the arena the 1/3 and playing it that way.
Yeah, well, I guess it's just the whole. It ties in with the budget conversation that they had too, right? Like a lot of them were really big on the no increases or anything like that, or hold the line or whatever it would be. But we saw this evening how many of them were talking a very different tune, and I doubt that the information that they necessarily received over the last 6 weeks or however long it's been really would justify such a dramatic shift in opinion. And it comes down to principle and integrity, right? Like, sure, there's a certain amount of reality check that you get in and you actually start seeing the books, but this was information that was available. No one was hiding this context from them. So
even if you, sorry. No, what I was gonna say. Even if you get a reality check, it's still, you can actually explain that to the people to bring them to that reality check. Like, if I found something that I didn't know, and the people that voted for me, for example, didn't know, you explain that to them and show them like basically the reality of it. They might actually like, oh, okay, I get it now. I didn't get it the same way you didn't get it. It just doesn't seem there's that level of transparency. It's not just about integrity.
Well, and it's just standing by the standard. Like I imagine, Brooke, you probably have something to say about this, but they made a game plan in October when you were planning your winter season, and then they changed things now. If you had known that they were going to change things, would you have continued with this season?
She might have stepped away. We'll see if she pops back in.
No, I'm still here.
Oh, perfect.
I just.
You muted.
Sorry. I meant to do it I went to do it the other way around. Sorry, Brooke. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just checked Google, and we have 2,500 seats in the stadium.
Okay.
Oh, so the 800 was the reduced.
Yeah.
And that's still a fair many people.
Yeah. Sorry, it's difficult to you got a little bit of echo, so I keep having to mute you back and forth, Brooke. So hopefully I don't mute you at the wrong. Or I guess you can always unmute yourself. I'll mute you when other people talk, and if you could just unmute yourself, Brooke, and we'll know to shut our yaps when you're unmuted.
And I guess question, Brooke, would you have changed your plans for this winter season had you known that they were going to go back on what they had said?
Well, originally, yes, I would have, as the president of the board for the skating club. I was actually surprised that there wasn't more backlash, because I thought that once we had sent out the email to the parents, that there'd be a lot of very angry parents to deal with. But it seems that I'm pretty much alone from the skating club. There's not a lot of people that are angry about the whole change in plans. It's like they assumed this was going to happen.
That assumption.
Yeah, if you could I know you probably don't know because it's not the kind of thing that we wear on our sleeves yet, but like roughly how many of these parents are vaccinated versus unvaccinated, and how much do you think the lack of inconvenience to some of these parents might explain their complacency when it comes to this. Do you have any idea how many skating or ice using parents are vaccinated? Oh, sorry, I keep doing that backwards.
Are we good?
Yeah, you're good.
It's really hard to tell because, like I say, nobody really got angry or sent emails, or everybody's just kind of complied to it. So I have no idea. I haven't walked into the building since it was announced, so I don't know if we're missing parents or if grandparents are helping out or what's going on right now. But it would be interesting to find out for sure, because I'm worried about a liability thing as well, because if kids slip and fall and the parents are not there to help them or take them to the hospital or whatever, and they have to be contacted and then tracked down and then have to come show up, and what is that for the town, right, liability wise?
Yeah, well, that's the issue with a lot of these restrictions, is it comes down to who's going to start enforcing it, right? Like, so it's one thing to say we're going to have some person paid minimum wage to stand at the door and check for, papers and all that. But what if they don't cooperate, right? Are they going to stick the town bylaw officer onto these people, and he's going to wrestle them to the ground and put them in the paddy wagon? Like, when you introduce stuff like this, you need to follow it to its logical conclusion, and that includes the ideal scenarios, but then also some of these nightmare scenarios. And
but it's also
go on.
Safety. Like, I have a taekwondo place underneath my daycare, and you see all of these parents. There's a few of them that'll stand at the window outside and just watch their kids from outside, but a couple more months they're not going to be able to. It's going to be too cold. They'll be sitting in their cars, or it's about an hour long. They'll go to Costco or they'll go somewhere else, and then they'll come back. What happens if the kid breaks their arm? Or like me, I did a major knee injury in soccer, and if my mom wasn't on the field in that minute, I wouldn't have been able to get the care immediately. I wouldn't have had an extra set of arms to be able to carry me. I imagine with kids that are like less than 14 years old are going to need even more structure. You can't take your kids to a gymnastics club anymore if they're 3-4 years old, and imagine that they're going to be safe with a 16-year-old trainer. Worst case scenario, they're going to have to call you in and you're not going to be allowed in. So there's going to be a lot of questions. What happens if your child's injured and you need to go inside but you don't have a passport? It's
and I think those are some of the concerns.
Precedent.
And those are some of the concerns that you spoke to, Brooke, about just not being able to be there, not just for the tying of the skates and getting things ready, but what if something does go wrong, right? Like, especially when your kids are younger, you want to be pretty close, especially like a lot of people get pretty messed up on ice. It's a hard surface and you're intentionally slicking around on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's we were talking earlier about, when do you think the point that enough is enough and people start either a civil disobedience or really laying the pressure on the government to back off will kick in? Like, there were some thoughts that it would be the vaccination for the children, and then there's other thoughts that maybe it would be once people that are considered fully vaccinated now are considered unvaccinated because they don't have enough boosters. Like, when do you think the tide will finally shift and people will put their arms up, kind of thing, or push back? Brooke?
Well, this was it for me. It's got nothing to do with the vaccine or COVID or any of this. It has everything to do with the fact that I am not allowed to walk into a public facility that I pay taxes for. it's infringing on my personal rights now, because now I'm being denied access into a public facility, and that's where was my end game. I'm like, I'm done, right? Like, enough of this compliance. I wore my mask, I socially distanced, I didn't bring food in, I was doing everything they told me to do. I followed all their stupid rules just because I wanted my daughter to skate, and I wanted to, follow the rules. But now I'm done. I'm tired of it all. Like, enough, because we're being denied access into restaurants. I can't take my kids swimming. I can't take her skating. I can't go attend public skating anymore. Pretty soon I can't take her to a movie. There's so many places that we can't go now. And apparently in Saskatchewan now, I can't even walk into a liquor store unless you're double vaccinated, which was considered an essential service 2 years ago. It was one of the only service that was still available. Everything else was shut down, but the liquor stores remained open. And now I can't go and buy alcohol because I'm not double vaxxed.
Yeah, and it's just where's the line, right? When does it just keeps going and going and going, and they just keep adding this pressure onto people, and it just they just want to break people, and it's not about the science, it's not about keeping capacity in the hospitals down or any of this anymore. Like, it's legitimately, it feels like it's gotten to the point where you just need to submit. It's the Milgram experiment or whatever, just on a large scale, en masse. We're doing it across the entire world, and it's just, I don't know. I thought the people's lines were fairly far back in the sand from where we're at now, but I have continually been proven wrong in that optimism. And you're right. Like, they just keep laying it on and finding new ways to lay it on. And you even see, like, where they are getting pushback, like with some of the government mandates. Like, I think it was Quebec, they were forcing their healthcare workers to get the jab, or they wouldn't be allowed to work. So they had a bunch of them that weren't even willing to present their papers. They thought that the whole notion was gross, so they refused, and they protested. So then the Quebec government backed off and let these people go back to work. So all the newspapers were like, oh, mandate defeated, all this kind of stuff. But in the details, it said that what they were doing is that they were going to allow the unvaccinated to work until they reached the point where they had enough vaccinated people that they could afford to fire all of the unvaccinated without running into scheduling problems.
Well, and that's what they're doing now here.
Yeah, so it's like, it's so much grosser.
Yeah. But I mean, right now, I think Brooke hits it on the nose. Right now, this line is, they're now telling you cannot fulfill your parenting role in society anymore unless you get vaccinated. You're not allowed to enjoy life with your children, give them experiences that they should be given unless you comply. And now you are the reason your children are denied these experiences, not the government, not society. It's your fault. And this is the issue that I have right now. I want to be that mom. I want to be able to go and do things. I want to take them out to Fort Edmonton, or I want to take them out swimming and let them learn so they're not one of the statistics drowning in the summer. And I want them to have those experiences. And I am considered a failure because I am not vaccinated.
See, when I was at Kirby there talking to him, somebody was there. I was talking to, I'm not going to say who, but he told me, like, all of these people have a choice. They can go get vaccinated if they don't like it. They literally told me that.
That's not a choice.
Oh, exactly. But that's what a lot of these individuals would turn around and tell you. If you really want to be that mother, or you want to prefer, then why don't you just go get vaccinated? It's that easy. For me, I don't agree. Of course, I think it's wrong, but that's the excuse they use, though.
Yeah, and we were talking about that before. Like, they say that it's a choice, but it's a false choice, right? Like if you're a restaurant or you're a restaurant, right, you don't have to do the REP program, but if you don't, then you're only allowed dine out, like no dine in.
Yeah.
And
And
that pretty
Jenny's
much
Diner hits that perfectly in Bonnyville. She has made that quite clear that the consent is not consent when it's coercion.
Yeah, well, people keep making the comparison to Weinstein, right? Like, Weinstein made the argument that do what I say, or if you want to work for me, and if you don't, you can find work elsewhere. And we thought that was disgusting and repugnant, but somehow we think it's appropriate when the government offers us a similar ultimatum. Like, yeah, a coerced choice is not a true choice, and they should stop gaslighting us about it.
Yeah, and I do actually have a question for Brooke, because I am really surprised that you said the skating club is like basically nobody had a backlash or outrage. And how many families are there? Like how many kids and families approximately from town here? Is it just town here or around too?
We have town and like people from the community that live within the county, and I don't know our exact numbers offhand, but I want to say we have approximately 55 to 60 families, our kids in the program.
None had
Sorry,
a
can you repeat
problem
that?
with it. Okay, I don't know if she heard me. Like basically none of them, like how many you would think like were upset by that? Like you said you didn't receive any emails. Like so basically it was only you?
Well, I announced to the board that I would be in big trouble because I can't run the board anymore if I'm not allowed into the building. Today we had a board meeting and I typed it up and I gave it to Emily to take to the board, and they did it. I'm going to have to wait for minutes to find out what happened at the meeting, but nobody on the board was upset about it, and I haven't seen or heard any emails from any of the parents. So I don't know if they are not vaccinated, they're not making a fuss about it, which seems strange to me.
Okay,
Yeah,
so Brooke, you're now not even allowed to represent your children in this group anymore because of these decisions? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I can still be the president of the board. I just can't walk into the building.
Which defeats the purpose.
Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous, right? And this kind of ties into, sorry, go on, Mercedes.
Oh no, that's just ridiculous. Like you're now not even able to inspect the work that's being done, making sure that your children are in a safe environment, even just outside of the ice. The people that are working there, the groups that are happening, the coaches and such. You're not able to be a part of that the way that you need to be in order to do your job.
Yeah, but Mercedes, these are the same people that believe that the children belong to the community and don't necessarily belong to parents, or at least this line of thinking comes from those type of people, right?
But
And
it's still upsetting though. Like, because here's the thing, I honestly don't care much about hockey and probably skating. And it's not that I'm against them or anything. I just don't do these sports, right? And I don't go there. Like I probably went to that arena maybe once since I was here, maybe twice, none. I don't even remember. And I still like I would oppose that in principle, and I signed that petition, which I think people should be more in principle like that. Other people are shut down. It shouldn't be about, oh, I use it, I'm vaccinated, it's fine. Even if you're
But if they
vaccinated.
let one, then the next one, and then the next one, until it's actually something that you are involved in.
Exactly. Next time it will be soccer, and that's something I'm interested in. All right. So yeah.
And
So
no,
for me, it was
thank you,
more
Brooke, for
abrasive.
stepping out on this and being a voice, regardless of the other parents. There must be at least one or two out there that that feel the same and either are scared of saying something or don't think it's their place right now, or they're vaccinated, so it just doesn't matter. And it does. And thank you for bringing it up, because if you didn't, maybe no one else would.
No,
So
100%. I agree, Brooke. I was more than happy to sign your petition and share it around, because that's what it takes, right? It takes people at the grassroots to take things that matter to them and to advocate for their own interest, or else who can you expect to do it for you, right? And you took it to the level of government that is most directly impacting us, and made your case. And it may not have worked this time, but maybe it means we keep on the pressure with these particular people, or maybe we take this up to the next level and start laying the pressure on Garth and get these whole rules changed, or so that no one is forced into this Sophie's choice when it comes to parenting. Before I toss it to you, Brooke, the mayor made a really big deal about how kids had a right to play hockey, or I don't know if it's specifically hockey, but kids had a right to activity, and that by doing the REP program, they were able to provide that to them, or to preserve that right, which seems flimsy at best. No one has a right to play
it
hockey,
actually also
but
takes away from that.
yeah,
Everybody 12 and older is not allowed to.
yeah, and I was just going to say it ties into what Mercedes was saying, is so in the goal of preserving a kid's right to play hockey, they've removed a parent's right to participate in their kid's sports. And I don't know, one of those seems more important than the other. So yeah, we really do thank you. And thanks for coming on and chatting with us. This is actually the first time that we've streamed the council live stream like this. I know we've wound up talking over most of it, but that's the sign of interesting guests. So, and some good topics came out of it. Is there anything more you want to talk about, Brooke, while we've got you here?
Well, because you've been on council, I'm curious, what should be my next step? Because I want to address the fact of a legal issue with kids falling and hurting themselves, and who would be responsible for that? Is that the town? Like, can a family sue if they weren't allowed into the facility to come and assist their child? And I'd like to know if we're allowed 2,500 people into that building, there's seating for 2,500 people. So that's what, 750 people at 1/3 capacity. How is it that we can't operate without the rep program, even on the weekends? Even you can't tell me with any of the tournaments that we've got more than 750 people in there. So I need to know like where I should go with the next step.
Well, I think you make a good point. Here, sorry, I muted you. I think you make a really good point about the total capacity. Like, that's why I asked. If we're really dealing with a fire code allowance of 2,500 people, a third of that's over 800. So are they really even at the best of tournaments or junior B games or anything, even coming remotely close to that amount of people at one given moment? And I severely doubt it. So that's one cause for concern. To answer your question about where you should go, we've already talked previously a little bit about keeping the pressure on some of these council members, in particular, starting with some of these ones that seemed favorable to your position, and really getting in their ear. Because I do think that there's some questions regarding the whole process here. It hasn't been entirely transparent. So that maybe means to challenge that. But in order to make anything happen, you'll need allies at that table we see on the screen right now. So you should make those allies and go from there. And some of the folks that are on the fence, you start pushing them. In regards to your legal question, I'm not a lawyer. I can't give legal advice, but I would recommend that you reach out to the JCCF, the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. They handle most of the COVID lawsuits and stuff like that. Not just here in Alberta, but across the entire country. And I think that you have some good questions that I don't have the answers for, but they should be able to help you. And maybe there is an argument to be made about, deprived access to your children, things like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, definitely talk with them. And Amber and Mercedes, do you guys have any other?
I wanted to add, I remember reading recently because there have been similar issues and a lot more protests going on in Bonnyville in regards to the passports and what's been going on. And we have one amazing restaurant there that's been fighting extremely hard against this and actively and vocally about it. And there's actually a law group that's there, and they were putting their ears out and extending an arm to people that wanted to discuss this passport idea and how it affects them legally. So if you'd like, I can give you that information off of here, and if you're willing to look into them, they may be, if not quite local but closer, they might have some idea for you. And I know that they're a really good firm on other topics, so they might be one to go and reach out to as well.
Amber, do you have anything? More said about? You're good, Brooke.
Oh, okay. Well, I looked on that page, so I'll contact them and find out if they're where we're at with this. And there's a couple people on council I know, but not too many. So I'm gonna reach out to. We have an email list of the other people that were there today. So I'm gonna send an email out and see who knows who from council.
I know one of them. I've not reached any of them. Like, I talked to them personally, all of them, and I have kind of their contact information, phone numbers, emails, everything.
Oh,
okay, that would be really good. Because as it stands right now, like I sent a letter to the town, but I didn't get any response at all. So I was really disappointed with that. I would have expected something from them, but I heard nothing. Does that mean, is the meeting over now?
Yeah. Yes, that's what that means. They ended their stream.
Oh, they did now.
Yeah, so I killed the feed. We don't need it anymore if they're not alive.
Yeah, I think another thing is also like try to like I know like you can put pressure, like contact them directly, but also like, you know, putting like there's some of the stuff that you said about the emails. I would actually prefer if I can see that actually written to the public. I know like you can put a lot of pressure, but everywhere you can use is good. Like, I mean, like if you write a letter like that to the paper, I would try to get Sue to publish it with all of this information. And you get other people to sign on the same letter. Like, you know, it's usually like when not one person, like if you have the people that sign the petition, write a letter and they put the signature on it, maybe we can get the newspaper here to publish. Maybe also we can get Lakeland Connect to publish it.
Yeah.
That might be in some of.
If you want, I have I can get some of their contact information too, and we can. It's all a matter of just making it as wide as possible and getting as many voices behind you, because if you stand alone, you're not supposed to stand alone, and you shouldn't be standing alone here.
I would even like, if I had time, I would have wrote something on it in the paper. But I like it's a really busy month on December. Yeah. But I think if somebody wrote a letter and maybe many people signed that letter that they are not okay with it, and they listed all of that, and they listed all of the information that they couldn't list in 2 minutes. And even if it's like a big letter, yes, we can probably like because Sue sometimes doesn't publish everything. She doesn't, you know, she have her own biases too, right? Just you know,
everybody does.
Yeah, but I think if we talk to her and it is possible, like if I talk to her, I probably can convince her to publish it, because she doesn't always like to piss people at the town too, not all the time, right? Like she doesn't want to be in opposition all the time, right?
Well, and another thing is, I think that's a really good idea, taking your letters and the feedback. Like, I'm really disappointed that they didn't even send you a thanks for your correspondence, we'll discuss it at the next meeting and get back to you kind of thing. Like, that's the least that they could have done, Brooke. But in terms of taking exactly, and in terms of taking your, well, it doesn't even have to be like Kevin, it could have been Andrea or any of their administration. Yeah. But I like that idea of taking those points that you had in whatever you sent to them, and then whatever you said today and didn't get a chance to fully get through, and kind of summarizing all that. And in whatever article we could put, this was sent to, or correspondence was sent to the town and no response was received. And you go a step further and reach out to the mayor. The mayor refused to comment, whatever it would wind up being.
Sometimes
But
even it will give me an excuse to call him or make a report or call him to actually give a comment on it.
yeah,
Because
and one
many times that happened before.
Yeah, and so this is actually an interesting conversation, because I've been on one side of the table and Amber's on the press side of the table. And the one thing that council really doesn't want to have happen right now, or I would assume that they don't want to have happen, is they don't want the focus of whatever comes out of the meeting that they just had to be that they just rammed through the REP without listening to, probably the most amount of people that they've ever had. And if you include in the paper that they were restricting the amount of people that were allowed to come in there, you weren't allowed to support each other morally, and all that kind of stuff. Like, you
That's
could really.
a good question. What is
Yeah.
the
Like, if
capacity
somebody
of that
can
building?
read
Because
that-
there's no way that was only 2 people in addition to what there's 7, 8, 9 people maybe. That building would easily be able to fit at least 5 people or 6 people. Like, why were they restricting to 2 people in there?
Unless they were just saying like that specific room's capacity or whatever, but
Potentially, but
it's either way. It's
there's
an
nothing about
excuse.
room capacity
And I also-
in any of the restrictions. It is the building's capacity.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a good point.
Sorry, keep going.
No, go ahead, Emma.
I was just saying, like, I know, like, usually, like, this can end up like nothing, but it's the more pressure you put. And I think it happening in a meeting there that is streamed, and probably like how many people were watching, like I think it was 30 or something. It's different when you have it like on a newspaper, on a website like Lakeland Connect, and then people who read it will talk about it. Maybe people will come in and say something, because many times something would be published and people are inclined to contact them, but they will come to the paper and say something. And
Well,
I hear
not just on there, but also afterwards, how many people repeat it? I know Justin's talked about how this live stream will be down in an hour or 2. They don't even keep it up for a couple days so that people can actually have the opportunity to listen to it. Not everyone has the time or can think of going to these meetings, but they still want to be informed, and they have a right to be.
Only 1 hour?
What? It's been once where it was off within the hour.
Yeah, there's the most recent ones. They've been not even saving it at all. So last meeting, the November one, you couldn't pause, you couldn't rewind, you could only watch it live, and as soon as it ended, the link was dead. You could never go back and see anything. So
here's a question: if I recorded it every 2 weeks, what is the legality of that? Like, I don't think they can do anything.
It should look into it. I think it was good.
Well, I think it's good. They, I believe, in their own rules, say stuff against it. Like, I know that their rule for if you were to attend council, you can't record it yourself without them being aware ahead of time. That kind of stuff, you got to ask permission. But
from whom?
Yeah, but if they're putting a live feed, then you can record that live feed.
Yes,
that's what I would think, is that if they're going out and they're broadcasting it, then they're kind of already saying, all right, this is for the public. Because it seems weird to say, oh yeah, you can watch it on YouTube, but you can't ever watch it again later, or like, it seems bizarre to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know, and if that's actually like a law, that's just their own internal rule. So I don't know. I was willing to take that gamble and to stream their stream this evening. At least if they do pull it, we'll still have this stream up.
Okay, I the pressure from each angle. That's what I just trying to say.
No, it's good to see from every angle.
I was just going to say, if they're not able to have more than 20 people in the room, that's what the sign said on the door. There's no more than 20 people in the room, and I didn't have enough time to sit and count how many people were there. I want to say that there was 4 other people in the crowd, And then I was allowed in, and it was funny because they actually wanted to shut the doors. Greg had told Kirby to shut the doors, and Kirby turned around, looked at the angry mob, and he turned back around and didn't shut the doors. So, but if we can't watch it, unless it's live streamed, and we can't see it later, we can't be in there, that's garbage all the way around, right? Like, that's just crap.
It is.
Oh, 100%. And that's the game that they'll play, right? And not to say that anyone's trying to be malicious or anything, but like there are tons of ways where you can put little mini barriers up to, if not prevent people from, just discouraging them from doing what you did. Like what you did takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery. And so I really do commend you. And this is the kind of stuff that they really hate. Like no one wants to get grilled over the decision that they made. And especially when, it's one that it doesn't seem like they followed the proper process and had all the thought and discussion around that they probably should have. So, yeah, that's what they'll do, is they'll play COVID rules. They'll limit the amount of people there. That will restrict your time that you're allowed to actually speak to them. They won't respond to your emails. Like, there's a whole bunch of ways that they could drag this out without dealing with it.
But the whole point is transparency is key. That's why every politician to Kingdom Come talk about transparency, how important it is. But then the moment they're in, it changes. If they were transparent, if they had these videos up and would keep it for until the next meeting, even so that you have that full month to go to the next meeting, or 2 weeks to go to the next meeting, to watch so that you're prepared. That gives people time to know what's going on, to be able to be, hey, I voted for this person, they're actually doing what we voted for, or hey, they're not following the processes, I'm going to say something about it. And that if they don't want that, then that is actively going against transparency. If they don't know about it, or they don't have an opinion of it, okay, but now that it's been brought up, it should be brought up and it should be continued. Transparency needs to happen. We need to have an opportunity. If they're not going to allow you in, and they're going to decrease and restrict the amount of people allowed in, but yet not allow you to get back home and go back in the feed, that's not right. And you should have every right to be able to be a part of it and see it and read back and make sure that you said the right thing.
And that's exactly why, like we're doing right now, is I had a choice to make this evening, and it was, do I hop on this stream here and present the whole stream and kind of do some commentary along, or do I go and actually be part of your little mob there and take my 2 minutes at the podium? Because I liked your strategy of just handing the baton off to the next person. You could have kept that riding for a while. I guess you just didn't have enough people to keep going with it. But no, I made the choice to come here and to just, stream the stream, because they as my experience was last month, they killed it almost immediately. So it's not even like if you were busy or something, or you had a scheduling conflict, that you could even go and catch up later. Like, they had it where you couldn't even pause. If I paused and then hit play again, it would go back to live. So I would miss whatever I was paused for. It was terrible.
Yeah. What about putting the kids to bed? I mean,
exactly.
I had to go backtrack on it today, and I just listened to it while I was putting the kids to bed. That it's impossible to be able to do it when it's not a set time, it's late. What are you trying to do? Make it hard for us to see, make it hard for us to listen to.
They must have changed that setting. Sorry, Amber, you can go in just a second. They must have changed that setting, because there's a setting that when you go onto YouTube that you could, for the streams, you can set if people can control the playback or not. Yeah. And last week they had it set to no. And that was
so
I was
able to go back.
Okay, so they changed it. Amber, go ahead.
So it is still on, and I'm actually downloading it right now. So.
Okay, well, that's how it was before. Is at least prior council is it would get streamed out, and then you could do whatever you want with it, and then it would stay till the next morning. It was when Andrea or whoever would come in and finish their notes for the minutes that they would remove the stream, but they would keep the stream up because they needed it for reference as well. But after the election, Kevin clamped down hard on all the streams, and that's when they turned the comments off and had turned the playback off, and so I don't know if maybe they got a little bit of pushback on that and they changed the settings back, or maybe it's someone different running the stream. Maybe we're seeing that. Maybe Brian's really tight when he runs it and Andrea's a little looser with the settings. Who knows? But I prefer that they keep it up, like,
Well,
especially
and even
like
Bonnieville did it, where they had the comments, like the live comments, as a way to being able to have community opinions. And so when it was a closed stream, they actually had it so that you can just comment in that public forum area, and that would be added in. And I think that's important. I mean, don't let or either let that happen in that way or have no comments. That's fine. But you should be able to have it downloaded, be able to keep it until the next meeting at the very least. And if not forever, just archive it and have it hidden, but somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing, is like, what's the big risk, right? Then someone is going to record their stream and pull things that they said out of it to use against them. Like, that's the opposite of transparency, if that's what they're worried about. Like, if you don't want people or it to blow, if you don't want the things that you say to blow back in your face, well, maybe you shouldn't say them in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm gonna have to go. My phone is dying.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you again, Brooke, for speaking up. I did sign your oh my gosh,
Petition.
my words. Petitions, thank you. And I am behind you. As another mom fighting to be able to be a mom for my kids, I stand behind you. So have a great day, and I'll be following you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mercedes.
No problem.
All right. Well, yeah. Thanks again, Mercedes. Have a good night, and we'll catch you later.
Yeah. Thank you.
And anything else you guys want to chat about? I guess the three of us.
Should put my kid to sleep too, so I probably should.
All right. Well, we might as well wrap this up
I
then.
just want to say, thanks for doing that, and I also would like to talk to you more about that, because I want to get something written about this, because it's outrageous actually. And even if we can just figure something between the people who are there, like whatever the statement you have, and we really publish them in the paper.
Go ahead, Brooke.
I was going to say, I'll send an email out to the group of people that were there, and just mention that we should do something towards the paper. Another good venue I think would be great is Rebel News, because they're really big on top of all of this.
That's true.
So I'm gonna contact them. I'm gonna talk to Kirby and Kevin Martin, because I know those two guys, and hopefully they can give me a little more insight.
Yeah, I can talk to some of them.
Here, sorry. Go ahead, Amber.
Yeah, I can talk to some of them too, and I would probably. I only talked to Kirby, and I tried to reach for the mayor. The mayor doesn't seem like he's adamant already, so I wouldn't waste time trying to contact him. But if we can talk to some of the people in the fence, whether it's like maybe Kirby, Josh, Paul, Kevin, see what you can do. I will reach to them too, and hopefully this thing would change. I'm not optimistic, but you gotta try at least. Good.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's got to start somewhere, and this is the beginning of the next step, because I've had enough.
Yeah. Very good.
Well, and you see how they kind of took the approach of it's easier to ask for or beg forgiveness than ask permission, kind of thing, and like that shouldn't be allowed. Like, if this went through the proper process where they had decided or announced, hey, we're going to discuss this is something that's on the table, had some level of appropriate public commentary where people could express their opinion, and then also gave the council members the opportunity to fully discuss things, I don't know if they necessarily would have come to this same conclusion, right? But it's a little bit of a sunken cost fallacy that what's done is done, and it's harder to undo things than it is to do them. So yeah, you just get this. I think that some of them probably just were of the belief that we'll look kind of silly or stupid if we suddenly reverse a path at the smallest little bit of pushback. But the issue is that they would have gotten this pushback a lot earlier in the process if they had a followed procedure.
I agree. Absolutely.
So, Amber, you got to dip out, put your kid to bed.
Yeah, I'm gonna go put my kid to bed. I'm kind of late, so yeah, you
No.
guys have a good night, and we'll talk again soon for sure. I'll probably like talk to you Brooke later to see what we do about that, maybe in the next couple of days.
Yeah, well,
Sounds good. You have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah, thanks for joining, Amber. Have yourself a lovely night. I'll
You
talk
too.
to you soon.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Yeah, thank you. So, Brooke, is there anything you want to chat about? Any more questions you got for me for your game plan, or are we? Is this it? And we'll call it a night.
I think you gave me some really good advice, so I'm gonna sit down and type some stuff up and send out an email to the people that were there so that we don't lose momentum. That's the biggest thing. Just because town has done whatever they've done, which we don't even really know. We still, there's still a lot that needs to be done, and I'll put the email together. I'll put something together for Amir. I don't know how it's gonna look, but maybe if I get a couple people to help me out with that.
Yeah, you're talking just a bunch of people just for your email and your letter for the Voice or your piece for the Voice. Is that what you're talking about? Not sharing what it's going to look like?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. What was I going to say? Oh, another thing that we didn't come up when we were talking about it this evening, but when your posts regarding this, I saw were very positive. It seemed like there was only really one or two comments that you got on any of them that weren't very much on your corner. So who knows if that's just a very vocal minority of folks that were they're in your corner, but it seemed like quite the range. Like it even seemed like Josh's mom was against a fair bit of some of these decisions that they had made. And I think after seeing some of the sentiments he was expressing this evening, I think that makes sense. But I would focus on those folks. Those are people that are all in your corner that maybe they can help you too. Just look at the likes on the comments and on the post itself, kind of thing.
Okay, I'll do that, and we'll see where we can go next with it.
Yeah, I don't know if that necessarily needs to be like your prime focus or anything, but that was one thing that those are clearly all people that are somewhat in your corner too. So things to consider. But yeah, no, well, thanks again. I really, as much as we've provided you with some advice and stuff, I really got to thank you for coming and giving us some of your experience and perspective and some of the on the ground experience that was there. Yeah, wasn't able to make it in person, but we were able to cover it, and yeah, you wound up staying for a whole lively discussion. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, it's awesome. I'm glad that you invited me into it, because it's nice to hear that there's other people that are, supporting. And I mean, things got a little bit heated in there for sure. There's some very angry people and very vocal angry people, and they don't necessarily take the time to think about what they're saying. And I know that they really stressed out council right off the hop, because they kind of came in guns a-blazing, and that wasn't my intent. I wanted to come in, I wanted to be heard, and things got a little bit crazy, but nothing ridiculous, right? Like there was no violence or anything, but there was definitely a lot of emotions tonight.
Yeah, well, I can relate, or at least I've been there. I've had it was pre-COVID, so we weren't able to put restrictions on the attendance or anything like that. But I've had council meetings where that entire chamber was packed with a lot of folks that emotions were running pretty high, and yeah, it's a tough spot to be in. But I think what it really is indicative of is if people are worked up and they're emotionally charged, it's because something is very close to them, and it's clearly it matters to them or is important to them, and more likely is indicative of them being scared of something, whatever it is. And it sounds like in this case, it is, being further restricted from spending this time with their children. So, no, I don't think he did anything wrong. They need to get used to it, and not every decision that they make is going to be popular, and they have to live with that. And part of it is, if they really think it's the right decision, then they need to stand up for that. But if they're trying to, I wasn't in person, so I couldn't see, but if they seemed like they were trying to duck away or feel somewhat guilty about it, well, then maybe that's indicative that they didn't make a call that they truly support, or right. But at the end of the day, they're the ones who have to look themselves in the mirror and live with the decisions that they make. And it's our job as residents of the community just to hold them to account.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate hearing it from someone else's side, because it was funny because I ran into Carolyn McCulley yesterday and I told her that I was coming to council, and she gave me some advice, which was good, because she said the biggest thing is just make sure that you have a solution, right? Like, don't go in just expressing what you're angry about. Have a solution, otherwise the council won't be able to really do much with it, right? And that was really good, because not that I don't know if they heard me or didn't hear me. It was 2 minutes and it was so fast. It was like a flash. It's just such a stressful thing, because you're in an environment you've never been in before. And, like I said, emotions were really high for everybody. And they're like, you have 2 minutes. And then when the other lady was speaking, he stopped her to say, you have 10 seconds remaining. And I'm like, oh my God, now she's lost her train of thought, and nothing actually got accomplished, but we're here.
I was making some commentary on that right from the beginning. It was clear from how he even was reading the rules for the public commentary that he was going to be very aggressively following those, and that 2 minutes means 120 seconds and not a second more. So yeah, he kind of I don't know if he cut you off mid-sentence, but he did kind of just cut you off in what you were doing. But I thought it was, yeah, you're right. It's almost more disruptive that he gave her the 10-second warning than if he would have just, cut her off mid-sentence.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if there's nothing else, Brooke, I am going to sign off here. We've been streaming for just about 3 hours now, and I guess similarly, you've been at it for the same, but also with a couple of commutes thrown in there as well. So if you have anything else, by all means ask. And if not, I think I'll wrap this puppy up for the evening.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for including me. That was great.
Hey, like I said, thanks for stopping by. You were there in person. You were able to provide a perspective that none of us had. So thanks again. Good night and good luck. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any more questions or anything like that. I actually, this is a cause that matters to me personally. So I would definitely help you out in any way I can.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem. See you, Brooke. Good night.
Good night.